There, we're live. I think we're live now, guys.
This is a troll.
Let's chat. Are we live? Because it says end broadcast, and I clicked on it, so I'm not sure if we're live. We're gonna ask Mom to.
Is it the flag one?
Yeah, click on it and see if we're live for us. Sorry, guys, it's the first broadcast, so
give us a moment.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just keep going anyways. It says end broadcast and that, so
I don't see anything.
No, I'm not seeing it either.
yeah, me either. Sorry, everybody, if anybody's watching. There we are.
There.
Yeah, we're live. Yeah, we're live. Look at the thumbnail.
Which one?
We're definitely live.
Yeah,
If
you got the thumbnail wrong.
Yeah. Your thumbnail's like this.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, here we go.
So we're live. Welcome to the Cavestream, everybody. I'm Tom Guns.
Yep.
I'm here
Thanks
with
for
my co-hosts, Just John and G-Rod. So we're on the west coast of Canada and British Columbia, and we don't have a fatalistic view of Canada like everybody else does.
Hell no.
There was a time, but
There was a time.
no. There's hope now.
There's
We do
always
support pipelines, though, so to let all the people in Alberta know that, you know, not
Absolutely.
everybody in BC is anti-pipeline. There's a lot of us out here.
Mm.
So we're with you guys. So we're just going to talk. We don't know anything, so I hope
It's
you guys
basically
enjoy
hang
the show.
out. And, yeah.
Yeah, do our
So,
thing.
Okay, Joe, you mentioned something earlier. A good topic.
Oh yeah, what was it again? It wasn't the
Coronavirus.
coronavirus.
well,
Yeah.
I sound like I got the coronavirus right now.
No,
But,
I keep seeing pictures pop up in the memes of the Asian people, and they got those water bottles over their heads. One guy's got his entire face wrapped in tin foil with nothing but an air filter. Yeah, they're going crazy.
What is that gonna do?
There's
Yeah,
a-
Everybody in Burnaby has face masks. I just went to the grocery store a couple hours ago, and everybody has face masks now.
Actually, there's a guy, he has a YouTube channel. It's called The Clown Report. And he wears like a clown hair with a red nose, but he talks politics like Trudeau and that.
Okay.
And he just did a video about the plastic thing, and you put it over your head, and the clown nose is a filter. I could show it. I could show you guys on here in a bit if you want to see it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I seen someone put an advertisement up on the buy and sell for the water bottle. They just cut the bottom out, selling $59.99.
Yeah. But I guess that's to protect. Well, because what they're saying is, like, what the Asians are saying is the mask isn't enough protection because you can absorb it in the eyes.
Yeah.
So they just said today, just a couple hours ago, that's a global pandemic now. So
It's a global pandemic.
That's what the World Health Organization
is a global pandemic?
How many people are dying and sick right now?
I think there's 170 something deaths in China, which is nothing compared to their 1.5 billion people population. But
So how many people are sick? What's the death
with the whole
potential?
SARS.
Well, it's spreading all over the world.
West
There's
Nile.
like 18 cases in Ontario, I think, right now. So
No, I mean, what is the chances? Like, out of 177 people died, or 170 or whatever, how many people got sick? Out of how many people? Like millions of people who've been sick?
well, I don't.
People whose immune systems are compromised?
Wait. Before you answer,
I don't think anybody can know.
Listen,
right
we
now.
grew up with the SARS scare and the West Nile scare, and there was a bunch of other ones. They do this all the time. You know, they declare it. The zombie apocalypse is coming, basically.
Yeah, that just in the 20th century alone, like 1914, World War I was the end of the world. 1917, 1920, the Great Depression.
You kind of have
Y2K.
Hold on. I can hear my echo, so whoever's playing our video in the background, you got to turn that off.
Han, can you turn that off? Because we can hear it in here.
Really loud.
Yeah.
You can hear it?
Yeah, I could hear myself couple seconds delayed.
Well, Mom's watching it.
No.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah, my mom's watching it.
Anyways, you were saying.
So, according to the World Health Organization, now they just declared it a global pandemic. Now, I was just watching Frank Vaughn. You know who that is, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He said that scientists have been screaming for 3 days now to contain this, and nobody's been listening. And now it's apparently.
Yeah, but wasn't there? It's like, guess what, everybody? The coronavirus is on its way to Richmond right now on a plane. We know where the plane is.
Actually, that's what they were showing on the news on CTV News, Vancouver.
Yeah.
Is flights that were coming in from those zones. But Bill Tufts, he's a guy on YouTube. He's a journalist.
Yeah.
You know the story where the RCMP went in and arrested the Asian or the biologist, the level 4 biologist? Those stories have been scrubbed from the internet now. Nobody can find them.
So,
so they're thinking it's some kind of like what, biological fucking warfare or some shit?
I don't know if it's real, if it's not, if it's a cold, if it's deadly. You know, you can't trust anything.
Remember, a couple years ago, Ebola was going to completely destroy the world, and it was a new zombie virus that was going to start the zombie apocalypse.
I just don't trust anybody, though. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, me neither.
Because I don't know. What do I know? I don't know what's... You know, you could trust the guy who says it's nothing. You could trust the guy who says it's everything. But really, what do you know? Like, I just don't want to come in contact with it. Let's put it that way.
I think the best thing to do is just be proactive, but don't be fearful either, right? Like,
well, I'm not going to put a water bottle over my head.
Yeah.
But walk
Did you see those
Costco.
Pictures?
No, I've never actually seen them. I've never actually seen them.
I think it was in Vancouver. You know the big water bottle? Shit, like,
you can
pull
it up on Google.
I'll see if I can pull it up.
Send it to me. Yeah, send me a link. And
what if too though? What if all these years they're creating like a cry wolf situation where they keep telling everybody that these diseases are going to be deadly, but they never are. And then one time there is a truly deadly disease or a virus, but we don't take it seriously because it's happened 100 times before in the past. Always bullshit. And then we don't take the proper precautions, and then half the population of Earth does get wiped out.
Well, something is suspicious.
It is the post-millennial. It is the post-millennial, but it's the best picture I could find quickly.
Okay, did you send it to me? Yeah, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
I'll pull that guy up. Just give me a second. But it is suspicious because you figure if it was something that serious, they would, contain it or, stop the flights or something like that.
Yeah,
I would assume. Okay,
there's an airplane flying towards Richmond right now that has a deadly virus that could wipe out half the country. There it is. Look, it's landing. Oh,
yeah.
They're calling them jugheads, eh? So,
yeah, and people were advertising.
Oh my God.
Selling jugs for $60 a piece.
Yeah, but what does it do?
This is here.
How does that help you?
It's more than that. They're wrapping themselves in plastic and then taping it up. There's pictures with strollers.
What the fuck is that? Is it like a fleshlight fucking silicone shit?
Yeah, this is something else.
Oh, it's an ad. Okay. All right.
But apparently this is in Vancouver. Does that look like the SkyTrain there? Because I'm not going to read the ad.
That kind of does, yeah. No. That doesn't look like the sky. The seats don't look like that.
Yeah, so we'll X out of that anyway. So you get an idea.
What the fuck? How does that help though?
Well, because it stops the eyes, right? Here, I'll show you.
But there's still a little fucking air hole at the top.
They have.
I'm
they have like a filter up there.
Where's the tinfoil head?
Something that would work is if you put a little filter on top, and then you have to tape all this so it's airtight. Man, that's weird.
I don't know if I even...
Seems like, you know what it's going to become? The next new weird fucking fashion. That's what it's going to become.
You know what it'll be on? Hang on. I'm going to pull up this video quick, too, so you can... It's funny. It's not... Oh, here it is, right here. So give me a second.
Yeah, people are going to extremes because of this.
Well, they're scared, right?
But is it really...
I didn't mean that as a bad thing.
No, I know.
That's what I'm seeing. But then again, I read...
I think this is it here.
You know, a lot of comments and that nobody believes it. It's hard to tell.
Is it shaky or... Here, I'm going to play it.
China. Yeah, beautiful city. Yeah, Wong.
It's a Canadian
We have a very serious situation. Very serious. Now, a beautiful city.
This is the clown?
That's the Canadian guy.
Respectful, helping. I recommend that we wear face masks and our protection. But have a very difficult.
This is like an episode of Telefrancais.
finding
He wears the clown stuff because the,
I made my
what's going on in
own
Canada is just a clown show.
architecture. You simple to make.
Here you
Just cut off bottom of job.
What the fuck?
Oh, you're
And cut
delayed.
off
Oh my
side
god.
of job. And it separate like this. It will fit over your head. I also found and developed my
This guy
very
French?
own
It's
nose
No.
difficult to
filter.
watch. I'll tell you
He's
that.
I have
talking
to
to,
get
he's
filter.
got an Asian
Where did I
accent.
put filter?
I get it. It's just
Oh yeah,
Well,
okay,
that's my-
difficult to watch.
Sterilize the filter each time you.
So you get it, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
He does it. He's got a lot of good stuff. He reports on the news, like Canadian news, because it is a clown show, right? And he always has the funny colored
Everything's
hair.
a clown show. Yeah.
Yeah, Canada is a clown show right now.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, like not on the ground, like when in real life, you know.
I
Day
think
to
I'm
day.
delayed.
Oh, I see you.
Yeah, but all the videos delayed for my computer right now.
That's fine.
The sound is on cue, but everything's super delayed.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, you on 5G? Try to switch it over to 2.4.
No, it never works that good.
I think mom's watching, so mom's always watching. But yeah, it's a shit show. But that's what everybody does. Like that's what I wanted to get. That's a point I wanted to get out today.
Oh wait, I was watching the wrong. I was actually watching the actual live stream. That was the problem.
Oh.
Yeah. I thought it was this, like the StreamYard. Yeah,
You
okay.
guys are cavemen.
That's what I wanted to get out. You guys do agree, like news is bad, right? Bad news sells. And with the age of information and the internet, it's all it is news, bad news, and people
Honestly, I was thinking about that today. It's like mainstream media, the ratings have never been lower. But every time there's some sort of crisis like this, everybody is tuning in. You know what I mean?
It's fake news until it's real,
Turn
right?
it off.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. For the next year, everybody's going to be watching CBC and CNN. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, this is how they get ratings back, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so like the Kobe Bryant thing,
Yeah, exactly. He's dead, and for the next 6 months, they're going to get millions of views and everything.
Yeah, I know. It's just, but there's a connection to him with China too, because he's a hero there, like a big hero, an icon. You know what I mean? So there's
And
always.
I always have this slight suspicion that these major celebrities and they're always. I'm not saying he didn't actually die, but there's always that probability, a small probability. They fake their death. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then kind of move on with their lives somewhere in some other place, and nobody knows, never see them again.
Sometimes the evidence can be
That's
convincing.
the conspiracy mind.
The
in you, eh?
conspiracy realm.
I don't fully believe it. I don't believe one or the other. I'm just saying, like, he probably is dead, but there's always that possibility. I mean, if you had as much money as he did, and you know what I mean, that guy's filthy rich. It'd be very easy to stage your own death.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wouldn't take very much.
Basically.
Yeah, you just move to some third world country, live like a fucking super king.
Yeah,
the rest of your life.
You sign your life. They say, we gave you the biggest stage in the world. You do something for us. Because the chopper that was on the ground at the crash site was blue and white. Kobe's chopper was black. It used to be blue and white because he bought it off a city or some city in the United States that put it up for sale. And then he had it painted. And then people that have huge followings in that on Twitter and that were saying, no, it was a skin, but it wasn't a skin. It was an actual paint job. It wasn't just a skin.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, there's a lot of weird things around it. Like, who knows? We'll never know.
There's a lot of weird things around a lot of things.
Yeah.
Let's just
But
put
then
it
at the
that
same
way.
time, if you were, say, a nearly 7 foot tall superstar basketball player, how could you hide?
Well, he's not, I don't think he's that tall, Kobe Bryant.
He's not that tall?
No. And the weird thing is the night before he died, LeBron James beat his record, and Kobe tweeted out. There's a lot of weird shit that went on behind the scenes.
Wait, hold on. I just want to say this because John was talking about how if you're that tall and you kind of have that stature and that reputation in life, how could you possibly hide? But it's funny, every time I'm standing in the grocery store and I'm looking at those, what are they, tabloids or the latest and greatest of the, I don't know, whatever, the lives of these people.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that it's not 100% staged. You know when they get a really bad picture of like Russell Crowe and he's drunk and his kids. Okay, you think he just walked out into public and allowed himself to be exposed that way? No, it was all set up. We need you to look like this.
Well, they proved it.
Any view is a good view, and
like Donald Trump.
All
They proved
publicity was
they proved that Donald Trump when they showed it.
No, here's my point: is someone? If you fake your death, you just disappear from these news articles, tabloids, magazines, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be walking around the streets and people will look at you and say, holy fuck, it looks just like Kobe Bryant. They could take a picture with you.
Yeah, but all it would take is if you were a photographer, a journalist or something, and you managed to capture a photo of a celebrity that was supposedly dead, like Michael Jackson, you'd be an instant millionaire. Instant.
Well, Michael Jackson is one of a kind.
I know, but
I know. I'm just, you know what I'm saying, though, right? Yeah. So let's say you found Elvis. You ever see the guy where they truly believe he is Elvis?
Yeah,
He's pastor. Like the church guy. Yeah. But so imagine you actually did find Elvis and he wasn't dead. You'd be an instant millionaire.
I was thinking about that.
Because people would buy that story from you for millions of dollars.
I was scrolling through my Facebook,
think that is
and there's a guy that I know who was posting, like, let's remember the fallen who died during the Challenger mission.
Yeah.
But when you watch the documentary, they pretty much found everyone except for one guy. How many?
They all have twins.
Yeah, they all have twins. It's some people are still living by the same name. And what came of that? They're just called insane conspiracy theorists.
Did you ever see that?
Yeah, but I think that's a bad example though, because not as many people can recognize their name as much as like a world-class celebrity. I wouldn't know Kobe Bryant if you walk down, or Bryant. No, but you don't watch basketball. But you know what? Hundreds of millions of people all around the world do.
Think about that in comparison to the total population. Walk down your street, or maybe you have a bad example there, Just John. But Tom, guys, like walk down the street and ask, people if they would be able to recognize Kobe Bryant, or hold a picture of him and say, "Hey, do you recognize this guy?" Maybe now that he's dead,
but I think because.
But even then, that memory would be short-lived. Most people wouldn't recognize you, or they would just... If you seen a guy walking on the street look just like Shaq right now, would you really believe it was Shaq?
Or probably, because he's like 7 feet tall, man. You would see him. That's definitely Shaq. Come on.
Somebody look up.
It doesn't matter, though. You're not going to... Well, maybe some people would.
Somebody Google it. How tall was Kobe Bryant?
Okay, I'll do it right now.
He would fit a little bit more in. He could be a lookalike, right?
It doesn't matter.
Shaq is unique. He's 7 feet tall. It's Shaq. Right? But Kobe Bryant has a distinct look too.
Yeah, but then you can't say that there's a system of making people disappear, but they only select certain.
6'6", so he's pretty tall.
That's tall. Very tall.
And it's.
Have you ever seen Pastor Bob though, Gerald, the Elvis guy?
No.
Even the mayor came out as like, ladies and gentlemen, on live TV, we found Elvis. And everybody that goes and sees him asks him, are you Elvis? Everything. His hand gestures. He sings. He plays piano, guitar.
He's either a good fake or he's
a pastor. But Elvis, in his later years, started writing like Christian rock or,
Yeah.
So he fakes his death and then just kind of lived in the countryside and as a pastor for a church.
Yeah.
Kind of retired and lived a peaceful life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
no one can ever really say, because now he's old, so you can't it's like you look a lot like him, but no one can really say for sure.
The point is, if Elvis, if you're saying it's possible for a man like Elvis to hide, then someone like Kobe Bryant or even Shaq or anybody, doesn't matter who it is, The Rock, anybody could hide. There could be a place in the world, no one's going to know your name.
That's what I said.
You go there and you live like a king.
Yeah, like some third world country somewhere.
Okay, watch this now. Hang on a second. Are you there?
But then why would you do that at the height of your career too, though, where you're like a superstar?
You get sick of it.
Yeah, Elvis was at the end of his career, but come on.
He's so famous. He
I can't see
it.
Right?
I can't see a guy like Kobe Bryant being sick of it, though.
No.
You know what I mean? Because he was at the height of he was
connected. He was always doing this and everything, and who knows? Who
really knows? Probably
wrong. That's bordering on.
Everybody's always throwing up hand signs. Always.
Oh, I messed up there. So hang on a second. Just give me a second here because I got the link on my Firefox, but
Terry Fluff is commenting Men in Black when he says Elvis isn't dead. He just went home.
Wait till Terry sees this.
Hang on.
Yeah, he's probably an Elvis fan, Mr. Fluff. He's our he's our American counterpart. Okay, so you guys there?
Yeah, we see it.
You see what? Yeah, I'm gonna remove that guy.
I see original. What was it? Margarine?
Original kefir probiotic or some shit.
Yeah, it went away from me.
Wait, Elvis is alive? Elvis is alive? Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Okay, we got to deal with this. Okay, like, please. Serious?
Need some sound.
You got no sound?
No sound.
I can't hear fuck all.
Okay, because I messed up. I'm going to
Sounds
grab the
right.
link off this. What I did is I accidentally went on to Firefox. And okay, here. I'm going to put it in the link. And then, why, is Mr. Fluff there?
Oh, there's left a couple comments on YouTube.
There's 5 people watching. I'm one of them, though.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm one of them too.
Start screen share. Share audio. Forgive me, I am new.
Yeah, he is a caveman using modern
Okay, you guys can
technology.
see that now, right?
Yep.
Like, check this out, G-Rod.
All the
Can you
hard
hear
as
it?
you dies.
Yeah,
Well,
looks like Elvis and Bill Clinton.
where you start.
Just watch.
But the same God that made you made him too. These men with broken hearts.
You guys
Elvis
are-
is still alive. Elvis is alive. He is well.
Wait till you hear this
Everybody in
guy
this
sing,
world
though.
just
Play the
lives.
piano on that. It's pretty amazing,
in
man.
life as they see it. To many people who think they have happiness, turns out
This is very
Turns out
possible,
bites.
right?
it turns around and devours.
Look, it's not impossible, man.
Whoa,
They
whoa,
do
whoa.
look
Many
alike.
people's lives have been destroyed.
So what I'll do is
The
I'll
very
Pause that
things
for a
that they
second.
pursue, the very
Pause that for a
things
second.
get to the singing part. Ready?
boy, you labor and heavy labor.
You got to see this guy in the bar. Hang on.
So I began to sing. I began to sing.
If I can find it. I can never find what I want when I need it.
So those
So Terry
words-
says, I am here.
Here it is, right here. This guy's an Elvis impersonator, and that's Pastor Bob. It sounds just like him, man. He's better than the Elvis impersonator.
That'd be the ultimate life, though. You lived as a superstar, you made millions and millions of dollars, did all this amazing shit, and then you get to retire as a peaceful pastor, but still
Elvis
kind
was
of like
religious, right?
you get to play with people's minds and play with the idea, but always like, but I'm not Elvis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
That's
like
pretty
I said,
sweet.
and he was very religious too. So it would be a good fitting. He became a pastor, lived a normal life, just left that life behind, right?
Yeah.
And like record sales, everything skyrocket when a celebrity dies. Like Michael Jackson went #1, you know what I mean? So
Yeah. It's
Like,
doesn't he still
yeah.
make like $50 million a year or some shit?
Elvis Presley, yeah.
Yeah, like his brand and all his shit, and that still makes millions a year. Are you on the vape now?
Goodness. Mom gave me a dead vape. It's that
He's a vape dude. He's a trendy vapor.
I can't smoke in the house.
Trendy
though.
vapor.
You're a millennial.
Can't.
You're a millennial smoker.
Yeah. Well, you know what they
Get
did?
it.
I went to the gas station across the street from your house.
Yeah.
Buy cigarettes. The guys, he's like, these are Export A Gold now because they changed the color. They made everything like this, pretty much the same color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Canada here because I guess to just deter people from smoking. But
No.
it's like it says smooth on it. I smoke Export A Gold. He's like, no, I'm telling you. So I brought it home. Finished that pack, and then today I went into the 7-Eleven again, and there's a guy in front of me, and he's buying a pack of cigarettes, and they're like, him and the lady that works there looking at this pack. So I went up. I'm like, going to get a pack of Export A Gold. She brings the same Export A Smooth. I'm like, no, those aren't it. They taste different. All the packs are the same. The guys, that's what the guy was saying to me. It's like they can't even tell the difference between brands anymore now.
Yeah.
So, fuck, there's no blue or red. It's just a smoky color now, right?
Yeah. That's weird.
If I'm going to quit, it's because I can't find my brand of cigarettes.
Maybe say everything's becoming generic.
It's to deter people, apparently. And on the cigarette now, it looks like it's just, there's no like gold lines on it or export.
Oh, so there's nothing appealing about it.
No, it's going to be like
just a white
Australia, Australia, where the cigarettes, because they're not allowed to, it's kind of like the marijuana industry here. They're not allowed to put like logos and shit. So in Australia, apparently the packs of smokes and that are just like pure white. There's like no logos, no colors, no nothing with a warning label on it. Because you're not allowed to like, make fancy logos and colors and things like that to sell your brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. With Johnny Quid.
Yeah, that's when he's like describing the pack of cigarettes, how it's like the bland warning that's like has no real color or excitement to it is the truth, but the elaborate, like super colorful, intricate design that kind of makes you feel like you need the cigarette, that's the lie. It's one of the best parts of the movie. It's rock and roller. Good movie.
Yeah.
Good movie.
I suggest everybody check that out if you haven't. It's a good movie. So
Johnny Quaid is definitely one of my favorite character in that movie.
Yeah,
definitely the best.
Yeah, definitely.
Daddy, nice wheels.
It's funny. I was quoting that today, walking the boys to school. Nice wheels.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Jesus Gonzalez is in the chat. Jesus is in the chat. That's a powerful name, eh? Jesus.
Yeah, Terry said I'm here.
Is he still there?
I don't know.
Where are you, Terry?
Probably left. This is boring.
Terry's a good friend of mine from down. He's in North Carolina right now.
Yeah, I remember Terry.
I gotta go pee.
We got 5 watching, and it's probably 3 of them are us.
Yeah. You got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's not about that anyway. So, what's next? We covered coronavirus. We covered.
Kind of. We'll probably come back to it. Everything circles around. Climate change. I'm still seeing a lot of Greta memes. That's becoming old, though.
Actually, did you see the thing Cam Bexley from the Rebel just did? He went to Sweden.
Yeah.
And got roughed up by our bodyguards. That guy's been doing a lot of breakthrough news, man. He's the guy that uncovered the military thing, which we can pull up too.
Oh, the Canadian military.
Yeah.
Anti-white, anti-Christian.
Yeah. He got.
If you're a straight white Christian male, pretty much you're the greatest threat to this country.
Yeah. So it's kind of like what Rage said. Grandma's a terrorist. Just got a text. Incoming text.
Yeah, it's work.
Yeah. But yeah, he's been doing a lot of breakthrough, a lot of good journalism. Now he's clashing with Unifor in Alberta.
He used to watch a lot of Rebel Media, right?
Yeah.
And he used to watch a lot of their stuff, but
they've been doing a lot of
good.
They have their political agenda and their political leanings, here or there. But on the other side, they've been doing a lot of hard-hitting journalism lately.
Well, I'll still pop in on their channel every now and then and kind of see what's going on, but politics, and the way it is nowadays, it's just chaos, and it brings chaos into your life. It's difficult, especially with so many young children. And you're trying to devote all your time to your kids, but at the same time, you're trying to devote all your time to the country and politics, and it becomes too much. Eventually, you'd rather go on a family outing and a walk and a picnic than spend all night, researching shit on Google.
Well, that's what I just said earlier, G-Rod, is because we have the internet now and everything, and news is always bad news. Bad news sells. Nobody wants to
everywhere you look, it's shit. It's shit.
But when you go into the real world, you know, everything's fine. People go along.
Exactly. I go on a walk with the kids, and I'm talking to people on the street,
Yeah,
whether they're liberal, conservative, or whatever. It doesn't matter.
exactly.
Canadian, you know, you can have a good time, but then you go on the internet, and it feels like your whole world's fucked suddenly.
Yeah. And it's just like Surrey is a dangerous city. Surrey's next to us, and there's a lot of shootings, like the gangs and that there. But
yeah, we grew up in a semi-dangerous city, you know, like the GTA area, Hamilton, all of that.
But Surrey's like Little India, as you guys know, or Bacon.
It wasn't much different growing up. You think about, you know,
going to High Street School.
But you know what? They hold the door for me. They say please and thank you. You know, I don't particularly want to do business with them because they're on the cheap side and a little bit, you know.
I mean, even they know that. You talk to an Indian guy, he'll tell you the same thing.
Yeah. Don't ever.
I've been told that many times.
Don't ever let an Indian work on your house, right?
Yeah.
Indian, as in East Indian. That's what we call them here, is Indian.
At the same time, it's like ultimately everybody is human. You know what I mean? And everybody just kind of wants to live in peace and kind of live their life and prosper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Everyone who's normal. That's where everyone who's normal.
But the problem is
there's extreme versions of everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You know, obviously there's a war on European Canadians and Americans, and that we get that. That's not what we're saying, and we're not, you know. It's just in the real world, day to day, when you go out there.
Yeah, but I don't even know if it's a war specifically on European Canadians as much as it's a cultural war. Like they're kind of destroying the original Canadian culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That culture of freedom and, you know what I mean? If you could have, that's what it is. It really comes down to it's a cultural war.
Yeah.
You're trying to destroy all Western culture.
But I find myself getting like that too. You're on social media, you're on whatever, Twitter and that, and it's bad news, and you start getting this really fatalistic view, and you're
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. You're kind of looking out the window, and it's like, man, the world's fucking falling apart, and everything's going to shit. And then, meanwhile, it's like everyday life kind of just continues as normal.
Yeah,
even when they're spewing all these like coming crisis, and you know everything's going to collapse, and you're watching the Alex Jones documentary, and it's like at any moment the globalists are going to come out of the woodwork in their hiding spaces and conquer the world. You know what I mean?
Like there's no.
And then you look around. And the thing is, most people can agree on most things.
Yeah.
I mean, most people want to be left alone. They don't want to pay very many taxes. They just kind of want good jobs. And they want to be able to open up their own businesses, you know what I mean? And just be left alone. Yeah. You know what I mean? Be able to be in charge of raising their own children and making those decisions for themselves, you know what I mean? Exactly. They don't want... You know what I mean? That's most people can kind of agree on that. Okay, maybe there's like, you know, slight differences on stuff like, you know, healthcare. You know, some people want private, some people want socialized healthcare, but for the most part, we can agree on 90% of the issues. You know what I mean?
People isn't the problem. Obviously, the government is the problem. Like we have poor leadership in that, and we are definitely heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you know, we shouldn't take such a fatalistic view because a lot of these people want what we want. You know?
Yeah, but when you think about it, it is the minority choosing the path for the majority because, number one, all the elected officials in Canada compared to the total population is a tiny, tiny minority of people, right?
Yeah.
So what they do is we vote in all these people. So say it's like, I don't know, a couple thousand people across the country who are all like, you know, bureaucrats and MPs and mayors and premiers and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And these people, though, this tiny minority of people cater to a tiny minority of Canadians. You know, like the extreme left and the super transgenders and, you know, all these like, you know, the lower echelons, Antifa, and they cater to them and make their visions come reality when the 95% of people don't want that shit.
Yeah, but
it's also hold on.
Listen,
not just us, but the entire world is living in a state and a society of cowardice as well. Most people are terrified of the fact of actually, you know, I don't want to say fact, but of the idea of making a stand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, actually having to stand up for something that you believe in, that you know to be true and right and good in your heart.
Yeah.
That's what Frank
just-
Vaughn was saying.
They cower, and they would rather bend to the system. They would rather give.
But
isn't
it also a cultural thing though? Because they're like kind of through the school system and through watching media and that they're creating this culture where it's like, you kind of just want to be accepted, and you kind of just want to be, you don't want to stir the pot. You don't really want to, be in a group of people and be the opposing argument, be that guy. You know what I mean?
And I think
you could say it's a cultural thing.
They kind of like get along. What is
the way most
saying?
people are around the world, regardless.
Play along to get along. Is that how that saying goes? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, where it's like that's kind of 90% of the people, and that's a cultural thing, though. You know what I mean? Because you're not bred to be tough and find your own way, and even if it means your own death, always go against the current if it's the right thing to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're kind of like, and we're on top of that too. We've never really had to truly struggle for anything. It's so easy just to go with the flow. Why fight it? You know what I mean? You've never had to starve. You've never had to really truly go homeless. You've never had to really. You have all these luxuries in your life. You have a TV. You have a car. You have a food in the fridge. You got coffee. All these luxuries. It's like, why would you fight? Fight for what? You know what I mean? And then on top of that, you're like a third generation person like this, where you can't even remember a time in the past where people weren't like this. Yeah, it's always been this way. We've always been fat and happy and have an easy life. You know
regardless of how much material objects you have, it doesn't matter how much comfort or conditioning you have. At the end of the day, it comes down to one thing, and you need the courage to stand up. That's it. Yeah. If you don't have the courage to stand up, it's over.
That's why
you're not going to take those first steps.
You got to understand, a guy 1,000 years ago, where he pretty much lived in the woods. It wouldn't mean anything for him to lose everything he has. If they stripped him naked and sent him off to the woods, in 2 weeks he would have clothes and be living like a
It doesn't
person.
matter. I don't buy into materialism.
I get that.
You guys don't buy it, and there's many other people who don't buy into materialism, and you would be willing to put it. But it's kind of like the
easier said than done, though.
For king and country, that's the way it used to be, right? For God, king, and country. But now there's nothing. Like literally, you don't have a king. You don't believe in your country, and no one, and God doesn't even exist as far as most people are concerned. So there's no grounds to stand on. There's no grounds to stand up for anything at all whatsoever. It's kind of everybody just rolled over and said, "Yeah, do what you want." Yeah, this free grounds. It's just you still have to have that courage, regardless of how much you have. It doesn't matter whether you're a billionaire or you're just a bum off the street. Yeah, you gotta believe in something to stand for something.
Yeah, but this is
they create a society of no belief. But
this is exactly what happened in the end times of the Roman Empire. There was no one believed in Rome anymore. No one was loyal to Rome. And when in wartime and in struggle, when the government calls upon the people to say defend their land, nobody's willing to do it. No one cares. So I don't believe in this. You know what I mean? This means nothing to me. I'd rather just stay in my house and drink my coffee and live this luxurious, easy life than actually put myself on the line and put my well-being and my family. You know what I mean? People don't.
Here's the thing: I feel like don't you want purpose in life, though?
You're delayed when I turn this on. I'm not going to do it anymore.
You kind of brought something to my attention. Is Canada is kind of being divided in two, in a sense where you have old stock. Canadians like us, hockey, like whatever Canadian traditions are in that. I can go through that.
Northmen. It's just, you can sum it up as Northmen. We live in the northern wilderness.
Right? And then
the southern border of Canada to the far north reaches. We're all Northmen, right? It doesn't matter how you look at it.
And maybe like people are saying, maybe Balkanizations, maybe we need our own thing, you know what I mean?
What do you mean?
Oh, because there's more and more people like us, old school Canadians, who are rising up, saying like we're losing our culture, our identity, right? And it's just
the battlefield is real life. Going out there and living your culture and practicing it and continuing it is
the battle.
This is a fact. No other country in history has seen what Canada is going through now, the cultural change in the history of the world.
I know, and it's not going to end very well. I'll tell you that right now. You can't. There's no such thing as a brewing pot experiment like this to end with daisies and sunflowers blooming in the sun. Like, believe me, whether it's now 100 years from now or 1,000 years from now, I don't care. It's going to come to a head.
No, hold on. Before
or
you
everybody's just going to roll over.
No, what it is we don't know the outcome. This is a total experiment. It has never been done before in the history of humanity.
There's a better chance it will be bad
thousands of years ago. Well, that doesn't. We don't know. It could turn out good. I don't think so either. But that's also our fatalistic idea, though.
Having other nations collectively multiculturalism, and they never.
If collectively we all believe that it's going to turn out bad, it will turn out bad.
That's kind of like a given, though.
Canada is gone.
It'll never be the same. There will be remnants.
Hold
on, there will be remnants of our culture that still exist.
Right, so we're not taking the best of the. We're not taking 50,000. Kind of like what Rage said. We're not taking 50,000 doctors and engineers and that. We're taking 1 million people a year.
Where else are you going to go?
Africa.
I've thought about this before in the past. It's if this country is doomed and you say there's no hope for Canada, where are you going to go?
You're not Canadian.
And even if you did,
Rome.
Listen, even if you did go to a different country, even if you did go to a different country, and they accepted you, you would still always be Canadian. You wouldn't be Polish or whatever. It doesn't.
Yeah, but doesn't that make you a part of the problem, though? Because if you go to another country,
That's what I'm saying. This is all you got. It's either
assimilate in this country, then you need to assimilate to the country that you migrate to.
This is the all.
If you go to America,
I know. That's what I'm saying. Right? Exactly. If you go to Poland, you need to learn the language, learn the traditions, become a Polish citizen, like their sports.
You never would be. You would still be a Canadian.
And in a sense, doesn't that make you sympathize with some of the people that come here? It's our government's fault. It's not their fault. They have an opportunity to go to our country and have free healthcare. Like, of course you're going to take that opportunity. But when they come here, they have the same mentality that you do. If you went to Poland, you would still be Canadian. Well, they're still whatever.
That's a different point than what I was trying to make. What I'm
that's why the problem isn't the people. The problem is the government.
I wasn't talking about the problem. What I was talking about is you don't have a choice. You have to fight for Canada. You can't go anywhere else and just become something else because maybe your children and their children's children will. But you, being born and raised here in Canada, if you don't stand up and fight for this country, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? The whole world
100 years ago, the people did that. 100 years ago, the people did that.
Just John, you're missing one fundamental fact. If you go to Poland and whatever, and you're a Canadian, but there's still a shared value.
There's still common values that you share. Yes, as Europeans. Yes.
You're not going to go there. You're not going to beat your women. You're not going to.
No. You're not going to. It's not going to a Muslim country.
There's still a cultural similarity, right?
Yeah, I know what you
believe in. Kind of
people that are coming in are complete opposite of what we are.
They're standing strong to the end, basically. Though standing for what you believe in. Like if you're a Canadian like us, why would you?
But Gerald, sorry, G-Rod. There's something I have to say. Okay, there's something I have to say about that. I agree, but what if you couldn't find common ground? I mean, forget the Canadian identity. But think about the core values and beliefs that you carry as a Canadian. Yeah. What if you couldn't find that in Canada? What if you went to Poland and those people, even though they're Polish, not Canadian, but they held the exact same core values that you did? Isn't that cool, more? Doesn't that supersede your nationality? You know what I mean? Because it's something that's greater than being a Canadian or being American. The most important thing is that we all believe in freedom. Because if Americans believed in freedom and Canadians didn't, I would be an American.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I would go there and become an American. Believe in freedom because I don't know much about their politics. But at the same time, no.
I believe one at a time.
I'm rooted from this land, and that's it. I'll die in this land. Whether it's
so then it's more of an attachment to the actual land itself.
No, it's everything. It's the land, it's the culture, it's the history.
Yeah, but you go to Poland, it looks just like Canada. There's rivers,
but it's not though.
Forests.
You know what? I went down to the States, and as much as it looked like Canada, there was just that difference. It just wasn't.
I get what you're saying.
It doesn't matter. It's not your.
It's your ancestral land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been
guess
here
what?
for
Millions and millions and millions and millions and billions of humans throughout history left their ancestral homes and went to places that were better, that they could get agree with and be united with people and
We
be
are
ultimately,
at least-
because it's, remember
No,
too,
no,
you got
no,
to think
hold
of
on,
the
hold on.
future.
Okay,
You got to
yeah,
think
but-
of your lineage too.
We are at least ninth
I gotta go
generation
pee.
Yeah. Okay.
Canadian, at least.
Yes.
So your people go back pretty far, and it's not far enough, I would say,
Yeah.
to stay here regardless of how bad it gets, and continue the good fight, and stand for what you believe in, stand for the country that you believe in, stand for the country that you were raised in.
Yes. But again, isn't it?
Americans are doing it? Polish people are doing it? Or is it the
No,
Turks
I
and
know,
Hungarians?
but
I can't remember. One of them.
I even heard many Americans say this, that it comes down to primarily having a set of ideas. If some guy came from Pakistan, but he wholeheartedly believed in freedom, he loved our culture, he ate our food, he played our, wouldn't you adopt him into your tribe as a Canadian?
This comes back to what I was
And
saying
it's like,
earlier.
so that means
No,
that it's
hold
really
on.
about,
Let me
it's
answer
really
your
about
question.
a set
Let
of
me answer your
values and
question.
mentality. Okay.
One at a time.
It comes back to what I was saying earlier, where I go on the internet and I'm absorbed in politics, and I realize that after a while that I'm ignoring reality. I'm ignoring the family, ignoring the reality outside, ignoring my neighbors, everybody. You're so focused on politics, the government, what's going on, world events, that everything feels like it's coming to an end. But when you go outside, you realize you're talking to the Chinese lady, you're talking to the guy from India, and you have no problems. Everybody's getting along. Everybody kind of has similar values, a similar outlook on life. Everybody wants to live peacefully, undisturbed and unmolested by their neighbors and friends and family and the government, greater institutions. And life is just kind of going on. That's why I said the real battle is just going out there and living. They've captured the hearts and minds of people using the media and using technology.
Especially,
it sucks
it
you
is
into
a cultural war. It's not like a standard war with fronts and guns, right?
If you go there and you live and breathe the Canadian culture,
Right.
that will spread. If it's good and it's true and it's right, then it will spread.
Yeah.
That's just the way everything in life works. It doesn't matter. It's not a religious
if you
point of view. It's
believe
not a
in
scientific
freedom,
point of view. If you believe in freedom, you practice freedom, that will rub off on other people.
Yeah.
And they will in this land. That's what creates cultures to begin with. Is a group of people kind of believing.
Oh, you know what?
And
I had the realization.
thing.
You're right. Because it's not a war with trenches and front lines. It's a cultural war. Yeah. So if you give up on the culture, you lost the war. Well, as long as we're out there, you're preaching, what it means to be, free and in North America and be able to speak your mind, having the right to hate. You know what I mean? These important things that make you a free man. You know what I mean? And if you live that and you preach it, and even if you change a few people's minds and they're changing a few the culture will always, you're fighting the war, you're fighting the battle, you're out there, you know what I mean, on the front.
There has never, and I just have to say, there has never been, and there never will be, well, unless you count the current government that's in power right now, but fascism or true, despotism in socialism in this land. It has never existed. Not since the founding.
Pieces of socialism, pieces of this, and that. There's never been like true,
no.
full-hearted.
No, and this country was built upon the premise, like all of North America and the Western world was built upon the premise that you can basically say what you want, do what you want, as long as you're not harming people or damaging property. It's kind of,
yes, exactly.
It comes back to the natural law argument. No victim, no crime. And that holds true no matter what. No matter what.
Yeah.
No victim, no crime. You're not going around and completely devastating the land or harming anybody.
There's only one problem with that, though.
That's kind of the idea that all like Western society was built on, was like those fundamental freedoms just to be a human.
I know. And even though that exists, even though that exists in all of us, because when you go to the beach, everybody's drinking beer, even though technically it's illegal. You know what I mean? We always
The
believe
cops
in
are driving by us when we're drinking beer.
Forget the cops driving by. The problem is, and maybe the cops here are a little more lax because it's kind of part of the culture, but it's technically illegal. It doesn't matter. The cops have the right, the legal right.
No, they don't. They don't have
the.
No, that's not the right. That doesn't give them the.
Okay,
right.
You know what I mean, though. Okay,
written in law doesn't.
I don't care. I don't care if you want us. If we're talking about like the true rights of natural law and then like the man-made bullshit rights.
No, arbitrary rights and real rights. What I'm saying is,
they can do it and be justified to walk around in the streets the next day because the government
they might feel justified, but they're not justified.
So the problem is we've never lived in a free place for real anyway.
Yeah,
as long as
even the Americans, the drug war. You know what I mean? There's all these things. You can't walk around with a beer in public. You know what I mean?
I know. So as long as there's an overarching body in any sense whatsoever, you're not technically free, right? You don't have
us among the people. We're free and we love freedom and we want to be free.
God and Christianity come into the whole mix, right? None of us are particularly religious people, but at the same time that religion or religious aspect brings in the sense of you already know, like it's innate, the sense of what's right and what's wrong. You already know what's right and what's wrong. You don't need to be told. You don't need Big Daddy there. You don't need big government to tell you what's right and what's wrong. You already know that raping and murdering and pillaging and reaving, all that kind of stuff, you shouldn't be doing that. It's not just for the betterment of everybody, but just your soul, your very being, as a human being.
It's more valuable to everybody to get along than to fight.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right?
We'll all be better off if we just cooperate.
Together, everybody benefits.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
But I
can't remember my original point now.
Hang on.
That's okay. In a sense, is you don't need this big overarching government or big daddy telling you what's right or wrong, right? It's the golden.
No, I know, and it's fun to discuss this stuff philosophically, but that's not reality. Reality is. We do have that government. The police do exist. You can't drink in public. Victimless crime is a thing, and there's nothing you can do about it. Because if you do anything about it, you're going to get shot in the streets or put in a cage for the rest of your life.
That is,
what I mean? That is a reality. Well, again, and I know, we like to
we fit about it is now just going off, especially for us here in Canada. I think all people should do it, and I do agree that. Cities and large populated areas, and they make weaker men. They build weaker men, right? So our advantage being in the north and part of our culture is you're supposed to go off into the wilderness and you're supposed to be a man and live off the land, and that in itself is the revolution. If everybody just did that and no one listened.
Even if you just practice it,
the liberals are in power. Nobody even wants them in power. Like a bunch of degenerates.
What if everybody just walked away?
Exactly. What are you going to do? What are you going to do when millions of people just walk away? There's so many millions of acres of land in this country that are completely untouched. What are you going to do?
Yeah, but there's a problem, and it was funny because I was watching a video Terrence McKenna was talking about, and how our entire culture was built entirely. The unfortunate thing about capitalism is, as good as it is to uplift society and make us richer, is it breeds materialism.
Yeah.
A very extremely powerful culture that revolves around materialism.
Yeah.
Terrence McKenna, this was his whole point. He was talking about how the reason why psychedelics are illegal is because when you take psychedelics, you realize how ridiculous materialism is. You lose all attachments to materialism, and you can kind of separate yourself. The point was, though, but that's the problem with our society, is everybody is maybe not everybody, but the vast majority of us are extremely material. We want nice clothes. We want a nice house. We want that money. You know what I mean? We want all these like supposed, we're being, and it is a thing. And I hate to, say the thing that everybody always talks about. TV is like training you to like desire all these different products, and you want the latest gadgets and technology. Maybe because we've never been very materialistic, we've never been very affected by that, but we still are. Like you still want nice shoes and nice clothes, and when you look outside, you look presentable.
You have been programmed. Whether you like it or not.
Like that's my point is. And you can't convince millions and millions of people to leave their beautiful, comfortable, warm home with furnace heating and a stove and electricity to live in a log cabin with no running water.
When you say that, see, it all depends on your worldview. Like, do you or do you not accept cowardice? Like, can you say some men are allowed to be cowards, but other ones have to be brave? Or do all men have to vanquish cowardice? Because see, here's the thing about bravery.
Is it cowardice, though?
Yeah, it is. Because here's the thing about bravery is bravery does not mean you do not hold fear. You might still be in fear, but bravery is your ability to overcome that fear and do what is necessary regardless of it.
No, right? I know. And what I'm saying is
that is cowardice.
How can you say that to a guy who's like a professional fighter or a war vet who isn't a coward? You know what I mean? And the thing is, he just wants this stuff. I just want a nice house with drywall and lights and electricity. I ain't gonna fucking live in the woods. But the guy, he's not afraid. He'll step up to anybody and punch them out. You know what I mean? He's not afraid of combat. He's not afraid of losing his life. But he wants these comforts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But what is he willing to give for those comforts? Is he willing to basically sell out his own country and his own people?
I guess hold on. I know what you're saying. Can I explain it? What you're telling me is what it really comes down to is if we live in a life where we can have these comforts, but imagine you had to make a choice. It was either you keep the comforts or you lose and you sell out yourself morally.
I wanted to say this earlier.
You know what I mean?
We've only ever been shown one perspective of life, the way things currently are. Everything else is hypothetical and in the air. It's all theory written in books, imagined in the minds of men. But they tell you, for example, to go to the extreme, anarchy could never work, ever. And they might give you one or two very vague and fringe examples of that. But that's not to say that, that doesn't mean that it could never work. You've only ever been shown.
I believe it.
Here's the point.
So doesn't that kind of sound like the communists and socialists, though?
It might. But the point is that the reality of the situation is you have only ever been exposed to one way, and your perspective is based on that one way. And you kind of take the idea that this is the only way that could ever exist because see, that's what they teach you is things are as good as they are because it could be a lot worse. Because of them, but you don't really know the alternative. You don't really know if that's actually true.
Hold on, no, I have a really intense point here. Oh, sorry, counterpoint.
PowerPoint.
I know. I realize that. Yeah. Wouldn't say a really large and highly densely populated anarcho society inevitably become a dictatorship?
It depends, though. It
depends on private military or some. What I'm saying is, you just like us, that we can't guarantee that everybody's going to be ingrained with the culture of freedom. And if you go back 100 years ago, we were a lot more free and people was more ingrained, but we slowly lose it over time because of comforts. And say you lived in an extremely highly densely populated anarcho environment or society with millions of towns and cities and wouldn't factions eventually form and arise of warlord-type people with that dictator mentality would raise an army and...
I get it.
It would go to shit. Everything that starts off good goes to shit.
If you go by what was taught to you, then yeah, absolutely, because they say that's the absolute definitive. It will always end that way, right? With factions rising, somebody's going to try to take power. Always somebody. But at the same time, they show you, as you can see, they don't show you, but as you can see around the world, there are many different cultures which have many different customs. Yeah. And depending on the culture that you live in, who's to say that a completely anarchical society couldn't exist, where everybody just I wouldn't say, like, I don't want to say get along, like there's no violence, but it worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there would have to be. The problem is, and I always talk about the analogy. It's like the king, who created. Hold on, the king.
Before you
the
go
king.
on another train, how do you know the hearts of men can't change? Because the hearts of men right now are set on war all over the world. Doesn't matter where you are. Everything in everyday society is based on war. It always has been for hundreds of years, thousands of years.
Since the dawn of man.
But they say that's the nature of men, but that doesn't make it true. Just because someone says it, just because research and science says say, oh, we can go back this far, but that doesn't make it true. What if your nature?
A lot of those wars were manipulated and.
Hold on, though. I have to disagree. I have to respectfully disagree.
Is different, or it can be changed to a state of no war. It doesn't mean there's no conflict. It doesn't mean there's violence.
Yeah, but Gerald, you do realize, you know how you need to do that? You need to create the soy boy. Because you can go, back in the 1970s, when they would go into the jungle to tribes that have never seen when they see white men, I'm not talking about that video where the white man for the first time, but like that. Those tribes, they've never seen white men and don't even know technology exists, have never been a part of our society. All they do is war and kill each other. It's always been that way since the dawn of mankind. You know what I mean? The thing is, you need to cut your balls off. You want to stop fighting? You want to stop war? You need to cut your balls off.
I do. No, that's not true.
Wait.
Because what happens when you come to a disagreement with another man that you cannot solve with words?
Yeah, but you can always walk away from the disagreement. There's always a moral choice.
No, I mean, you say it's like a land dispute. It's a land dispute.
It doesn't matter.
What are you going to do? Just let him have the land?
Yeah, but you're talking about primitive.
No, you're allowed to defend your land.
No, I'm not talking about primitive man. Even that's what war is. This is a metaphor for.
No. I don't agree, because the thing is I do take morality very seriously, and I think it is very strict. So either you're immoral or you're immoral. I don't care if you're ancient man using stone tools or if you're flying through the Starship Enterprise. That makes no difference as far as morality is concerned.
Hang on. Let Dad speak. What
are you saying about what, like John said, and he is right. Those tribes people who've never experienced what we experience in the real, like in the modern world, can be very violent.
Okay, but I'm trying to explain. You don't know how far back human history goes. Humans could have been corrupted one way or another, whether it was by extraterrestrials, religious, spiritual events, or just our own natural whatever. There is no consensus on when humanity came to be.
Well, if you're looking,
it could go back hundreds of thousands. Yeah, but some people say hundreds of thousands of years. Some people say millions, even hundreds of millions of years.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but there's a problem though.
Completely up in the air. So.
All animals, all mammals in particular, fight.
Yeah.
Okay. They all fight.
Yeah.
All of them. There's disputes over mating rights, disputes over resources and food and hunting grounds. What happens if you're a starving tribe and there's lush hunting grounds just over the hill, but that's the other tribe's land? And if you go there and kill a deer, they're going to be extremely upset, but you're starving to death.
Yeah.
So now you have a land dispute. It's like, listen, we want your hunting grounds because I'm starving to death.
Yeah,
I'm going to walk in there and kill a deer. And when they say no, because if you take their deer, they're going to starve. They will starve.
Here's the problem: is you're saying an anarchical society can't exist because other societies from outside would try to.
No. We're way past anarchy. This isn't about. Hold on, let me clarify something. This is not about anarchy. This is about the nature of man and fighting. That's what this was about.
But this is what it comes down to: is the way the world is today. You act like because this is the only way it could ever be, which I don't believe. I absolutely do not believe. I believe this is the way it's designed to be. I do not believe that this is the way.
Yeah, but I don't think. I'm sorry, but I can't believe that millions of tribes all across the world, in every continent, every forest, completely separate with no communication, all share the exact same shit. I
didn't say that. I said one society. I said a society. I didn't say the whole world. I said one society. So say you lived in a country. It doesn't.
Aren't we? Isn't that Canada? That Canada?
You're not listening. Imagine Canada was still Canada, but when you're within Canada, there are no rules.
Yeah, but there's Gerald. If you want to see something like that, go to some city in India where there is no cops. Literally,
I don't understand.
There's no
your
such.
point. I don't understand.
My point is those places do exist in this world.
Exactly. So it is possible that a society could exist in anarchy and survive on its
possible,
own.
But at this stage of the game, it's not.
No, I say that too. People act like, how could the world be living in anarchy? It's like, well, of course, if you were a genie and you can make governments disappear like that, people would start running around like the chickens.
It's always been a hierarchy, right?
Yeah, but that's because we've never been. We're weak and we've never been taught to be self-sustainable.
Again, it does not mean it's not possible for human beings to live in such a state where we don't need Big Daddy. You don't need Big Daddy. You don't need someone looking after you every day, knocking on your door. Hey, you doing the right thing today? Good.
Okay, you don't fuck a Joe, right? The point is, hasn't there always been like those? I do agree with Jordan Peterson on this, that we humans naturally create these structures, the hierarchical structures.
Of course.
If you're in the tribe, you have the chief, right? And it goes out from there. We naturally create these structures in society.
Actually, to add to Dad's point is, the Jordan Peterson dismantled video. I'm pretty sure it's on. Yeah. They talked to that one university scholar in the 70s about radical individualism and the impact of the Frankfurt schools on North America. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So radical individualism, where it's like individualism, but taken to that's what anarchy is in a sense. Humans naturally form hierarchy structures. No. Don't say anything. Let me finish. Starting from the family. The human creates a hierarchical structure where the father is the head of the family. He is the dictator of the house, for instance. He tells his kids, you go there and do this, they do it. There's no like, I'm an anarchist, I can do what I want. He runs around and takes his shit on the floor.
That's why I'm trying to stop you.
But then it naturally grows from there. So now we have a society of many families, and we elect like a family leader, spokesman of all the families.
Yeah, but he's unofficial, though. That's the thing about that. Is when you're talking about true anarchy, again, Mark Passio explains it perfectly. Anarchy does not mean no rules. There absolutely are rules. And if you think there are no rules, that is the trendy Antifa, I'm going to be an anarchist.
Actually, it means no rulers.
Yeah. It just means no rulers. What it means is if you elect someone from your tribe or your neighborhood or whatever it is that you're living in, that person
can't enforce anything.
No.
Yeah, he can't enforce anything.
Has to say, as long as you're living on your land and you're not infringing on anyone else's land or their right to live,
like clearly doing something to infringe upon other people's rights.
Fire off rocket launchers and drive tanks. And
let me make a point.
But what about corruption?
Let me make a point, though.
It's your business.
Isn't government's sole purpose to protect private property rights?
Yes, that's the one and only. That's what that one guy said. He's a Wall Street guy. No, he's a Wall Street.
Hey,
hold on.
We got our first.
He's a Wall. Okay, cool.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys know him. This is an American, and he's going to give us an American perspective because they have a constitution in that. So we're going to bring him in right now. Okay,
let's do it.
Sounds good.
Welcome, Mr. Terry. There's the old man right there.
Hey, how's it going, man?
I'm here.
Okay, you got your beer? Because let's see it. Okay.
Sweet.
You look good. You got color in your face.
Yeah, I survived. I'm still alive.
For those don't know, Terry just had a brush with death. And
I heard, man.
So you left some comments in the comment section. What do you think of this conversation? I'm looking down there, but I'm trying to look in there too. So
well, the world's in a shitty position right now. The whole world, not just Canada, not just America. The whole goddamn world's in a shitty position. We've been run over for so many years by these half-assed politicians. The politicians lie. I mean, they make no bullshit about it. They lie. They don't care. They promise you the goddamn world and they give you shit. You always get the shitty end of the stick, bottom line. So it's up to folks like you and I to take back our respective countries. And that's what it's going to have to take. A massive people standing up to these freaking politicians and their bullshit policies. You know it's bullshit. I know it's bullshit. Don't try to feed me shit. I'm capable of eating it on my own. Thank you.
Yeah.
I
kind of feel like, though, in a way, we built this culture where we expect politicians to lie so much that we almost don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
If the politicians lie, it's like, oh, that's what they're supposed to do. That's what how it always is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get
Somebody explain to me, what the fuck is a politician? He's a paid spokesperson for whoever the fuck owns him.
Yeah.
They should all wear sponsor stickers. Who the hell is backing them? They're just people. These people ain't no better than you and me.
Yeah.
But these knuckleheads are making big money telling you how to live your life.
Well, you're down. You're down there. You're on the ground. You do like Trump, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'd kiss his ass, but what he's doing is good.
Okay.
And that's what people need. Let me take it down to you real simple.
Yeah.
Trump is not a politician, and that's what's baffling these poor bastards. He's not a politician. Politicians come up through the ranks. Trump didn't come up through no ranks. He has his own money. He didn't need their goddamn money. So now what you're seeing down here is a hostile takeover. Yeah. Because America is not just a country, it is a business.
Yes.
Act of 1871. Look it up.
Corporation.
It's a corporation.
Yeah.
We're the corporation of Canada.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is a hostile takeover.
But what do we do?
And Trump is one of the best in the world.
What do you
buy up a small country?
Yeah, but what's the answer? Because Trump knows this.
I'm thinking, ultimately, everybody is always following the status quo.
Yeah.
All the power lies in the people.
Yes.
In the populace. Now,
that's something we have to realize.
What you're seeing in Canada, we're seeing here in America too. The influx of the immigrants. Why do they want all these goddamn immigrants in this country? I thought the idea was, I'm sorry, not immigrants, refugees. We got all the refugees here. Well, when your country's done, aren't you supposed to go back? But they don't go back. That's the thing. They stay.
Yeah. But the thing is, Canada has a population of 36 million. We're taking in 1 million a year. We're taking in more than you guys at 320 million population.
Yeah. Relative to the size of the population.
It's unbearable.
If you've seen where I live, I'm telling you right now, it's 100% pure Chinese.
Yeah.
No one speaks English. Everybody is Chinese. You go on the bus, you're the only white guy on the bus.
Yeah, literally. Literally.
If you're in Burnaby, right where I'm living, I'm telling you, it's pure, and it's difficult. Number one, it's hard to meet people because everybody speaks a different language. They all hang out with their own exclusive Asian groups. Yeah. And you're just kind of you're entirely, you feel like the only Canadian. If you go up to the guy, hey man, you want to fucking drink a beer? He's looking at you weird. Yeah. He doesn't understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling.
If you can't say that to somebody, then you're not Canadian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And suddenly you feel completely isolated.
Now, Terry, are you armed? Are you armed, Terry?
What's that?
Are you armed or are you sitting there helpless right now?
No, I'm fine.
I'm doing wonderful right now.
I absolutely love your guys' second round. I wish we had something like that here in Canada.
What's this? No, are you armed?
Are you armed?
You know better than ask me that.
Well, we're talking about guns now.
You know better than ask me that.
You got a little vulnerable on me there, so
I get to take a piss.
You know better than ask me a question like that. I'm a true red-blooded American. Yes, I own my guns. Yes, I have my guns.
Are they around you?
My guns are pretty close by.
No, they're not within arm's reach. Because they're coming after our guns. They're coming after our guns.
Well, they're coming after our guns.
And the last time
out of my cold dead hands.
Yeah, but last time I talked to
You
you,
can put-
it's kind of the same thing going on down there. There's a big anti-gun push down there, right?
Well,
I see it all the
the
time.
big Second Amendment thing that happened in Virginia, that was more of a flop than anything.
Yeah, it was.
Big publicity stunt on their part. But I think I sent you, Tommy, I sent you the video. The guy that was at the rally and the federales came knocking on his door.
Yeah.
I think I sent you that video.
That was unbelievable.
Oh, well, that's happening. So
I could even show that
You know,
video. This guy went to Virginia and came back home 100 miles away, and they showed up. They didn't know who he was. They must have used like some kind of facial recognition, right?
it had to be.
Yeah.
He never showed any idea to anyone how they know who he was.
But you know
So
what?
they had to use facial recognition to figure out who he was through his driver's license, of course. And they come on to fuck with you.
That was the wrong gun on the wrong day, though, because that guy knew his stuff, man. Like that guy, he handled it perfectly. You know?
Oh, yeah. Yes, he did.
Yeah. But what I thing I want to ask you, Terry, is everybody went to Virginia because of the red flag laws, but Trump supports the red flag laws. That's the hypocrisy. You know what I mean?
Well, they're going to fight that red flag law thing because you're just trying to circumvent a law with that law, and that's unconstitutional. You can't use another law to get around a law. So if someone is deemed a threat, is it credible? Okay, now if someone's making threats online or something, then I understand. Maybe you need a visit from the policeman, settle your ass down, But you should come out starting to take guns.
Yeah, but how
You're
could you
gonna
support Trump? How could you support Trump and be against Ralph Northam, who both support red flag laws, if it infringes on the Second Amendment? You know what I mean? It's kind of
if you read what he's saying, he's supporting a version of the red flag law. Now, someone is deemed a credible threat. Yes.
Yeah.
Then they need a visit. But just, hell, I could make a comment on here when you guys could, red flag me. That's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, it could be an old girlfriend or something like from 5 years
Exactly.
ago.
Exactly.
She's calling, or it could be your neighbors who are unarmed and who scared of guns.
Chances are it's the neighbor.
Yeah, and you're saying you're running around the house naked with your guns hanging out, right?
Might just happen tomorrow. You never know.
Yeah, but that means Trump is gonna, if he supports red flag laws, he doesn't support the Second Amendment because it shall not be infringed, right? Down there.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you ain't gonna take my guns.
If that's what makes me think, it doesn't matter who you elect; they always follow the status quo.
Yeah,
they always go by. They might do some little things in that kind of make you think, like, okay, this guy might be for real, but ultimately, they're always follow the status quo. The globalist idea of where the world is going. You know what I mean? They're always kind of moving in that direction. What do we do?
Yes, slowly but sure it is moving in that direction. Yes, it is. I will agree with you there. But people are getting fed up with that shit. See, just recently, within the last couple of days, in the county that I live in, it became a Second Amendment county.
Yeah.
So they don't even try. The police have already said they will not try to enforce any kind of gun
stuff like that.
confiscation.
Obviously, there must be homegrown cops though as well, right? See, the funny part is inner city people. They have this weird mentality about them where it's almost like they're not even from the land. They're
exactly.
elsewhere where they have these weird ideals and beliefs, and they hold to them religiously, regardless of what kind of evidence or logic you bring to the table. That's just from what I see online, right? I mean, you live there, so you know a lot better. But
I've been all over America, been all over the place, and I've always noticed the closer you get to a bigger city, a metropolitan area, the more hive-minded the people are.
Yes,
they tend to get in groups, and they like you said, they'll stick to their beliefs. Come hell or high water, right or wrong, they're going to stick to those beliefs, and that's what you're seeing with a lot of these groups like Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Now they're all on about the gun control.
Yeah.
But one thing I've never seen one politician yet to date ever in all this gun control bullshit. No one has ever once said how they're going to take the gun away from the criminals. Not one of them has ever made any kind of proposition as to how to do that.
That's
and
a good
until
point.
you do that, don't come to me disarming me.
Yeah.
You know the criminals are going to get their guns. They're going to buy them on the black market. You know.
It doesn't matter. They do anyway.
From what I've seen,
You know what I mean?
the cities with the highest crime rates are the cities where guns are banned.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah, but like
it's
like, yeah. And the thing is Canadians, especially more than Americans, have experienced, much stiffer gun laws, and so they do it anyway. And there's really, what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean?
Well, we don't have a Second Amendment.
No one wants to cross that line. You know what I mean? That's a crazy prospect to think about. All throughout history, our ancestors would revolt and do this crazy shit and everything. But for us to actually think about that and process it, it's like no one really wants to go to that point. Which is fair enough.
Remember we were doing that roof on Vancouver Island? We asked Mr. Coombs, do you believe in the right to bear arms?
Yeah, and he was terrified of it. Terrified of the idea of owning a gun. Like he couldn't even talk about it.
Yeah,
those are the kind of people are going to be standing behind you when the time comes if you have a gun. Like,
the funny part is take a knife to a gunfight? They may stand behind you, but a lot of them, oddly enough, they will go to extreme measures themselves, even if it means killing you to prevent you from having a gun. That's the irony of the whole thing.
So they'll shoot you.
They'll shoot you to prevent you from having a gun.
You can have a gun.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around the whole thing. It's ridiculous.
Well, where you are, Terry, you can go down to Walmart with a concealed gun. Like, is it concealed?
Well, Walmart won't let you in anymore.
Okay.
But legally, yes, I can. I can shut my 45 to my side and walk down the street. No one's going to bat an eye.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, it's
They
hard for us
probably
to
have more guns than I do.
Yeah, because we don't see guns. The only time we see guns up here usually is when you're going to Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop or
a gun store. Well, the funny part is guns in Canada are more silent because we don't have, say, a constitution protecting us.
Yeah.
So they say per capita, technically, more people in Canada own guns than in the United States, like per capita, because you guys have 10 times the population of us.
What I've heard too.
No one ever talks about it, and the problem is we don't have any real right to own guns. So anytime the government wants, they can step in and say, "Yeah, we're taking that away. Give us all your guns." And we don't have a constitution. We have nothing to stand behind. So it's just
the point is we have
it's
very
literally at the
strong
leisure
gun culture.
Yeah, we have a strong gun culture, but it's at the leisure of the government.
Yeah, but people are saying that our Constitution here might even be a copy. The real Canadian Constitution is in England. Like we don't even have the actual document in country. Now I can't confirm that, but we have the Charter of Rights.
It would make sense though, because and was it 90% of the land here is crown land? Like if you buy a piece of land, you're not allowed to cut down the pine trees because the pine trees are always reserved for the crown.
Yeah, the queen.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and there's vast swaths of wilderness. You're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of square kilometers that are crown land. And you're allowed to like hunt on that land, and you can build like a small like hunting cabin or like a little tent or something, but you're not allowed to live on it, and it's reserved for the crown. So it's technically owned by the queen or the royal family or whatever.
Canada's in a state of de facto because we're not owned by the crown. So they don't have a righteous claim over this land.
And I was
it's no man's land. It's in reality, it is no man's land.
It's just wilderness.
There's no constitution. There's no crown. There's no king of the country. There's nothing.
Exactly.
That's what I was going to bring up. Is there's a huge movement happening in Canada where Canada is actually de facto. Our government is illegitimate.
Yeah.
When Queen Victoria was alive,
it is illegitimate.
When Queen Victoria was alive, she had an illegitimate son. So what she did is she put a clause in that when she dies, everything dies with her because she didn't want everything being left, like the British Empire being left to him. And then from there on, as far as I understand it, the politicians kept this fraud going. But when Queen Victoria died, the Dominion
Technically, so what you're saying is technically her lineage, the end of the royal bloodline was that day because she had an illegitimate son.
But the Dominion of Canada ended. So all the countries or all the provinces that formed the Dominion of Canada are now technically, legally on their own.
Yes.
You can do whatever you want.
Well, no.
You could,
what you could do is you can have a constitutional convention, and I think you only need like one province on board. And what they can do is they can vote in like a new government in place of, say, the Trudeau government, because the Trudeau government or any other government before that has been illegitimate from like 1901. I don't really know.
So it's they've been living the same. So basically, the politicians realize the royal family doesn't exist anymore, but yet they hold all this land and wealth. And if they die and say their legacy dies with them, Canada would be free. Everything would be released from, the centralization.
With the provinces themselves, which they were individual countries more or less. When you had Upper Canada, Lower Canada, Alberta, BC.
What I'm saying is, sorry, Dad, explain.
When Queen Victoria was alive, she had an illegitimate son, and she was scared that the empire would be left to him.
Yes.
So she put a clause in that when she dies, everything dies with her. But
that means the British Empire.
Because Canada was a resource-rich country, fresh water, oil, they were finding oil, minerals, gold, everything like that. The politicians kept the fraud going.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You got to watch.
What I mean is, if when Queen Victoria, let's say she got her way, when she died, does that mean Canada is split from the British Empire? It's no longer the British Empire would dissolve.
Right.
That's
but
what I mean.
But
so everything would be free. Everything would have been free and not connected like it is. The Commonwealth would not exist.
So what's happening now all over Canada?
And what I was saying is Canadian politics would dissolve as well because our government was built on the crown. So there would be no federal government. It would be stripped right down to the provincial level, where the provinces would be individuals, and they would have to make the decision consciously whether they were going to agree or not. If something like Quebec wanted to split off from Canada, well, Canada doesn't even exist anymore. So Quebec would be on its own. And as well as any other province that decided
back
to.
Like the American Constitution, Terry Fluff knows this, is in their constitutions, we the people. And in ours, it's something to do with the crown. But it's illegitimate. It's been illegitimate since the death of Queen Victoria, and it's illegitimate today.
Even if it's legally right, Canadians don't believe in the crown. We don't have a king. We don't have a queen. There's no royal family. You know what I mean?
Some people do.
Very few though. People actually would say, "He's my king."
The trendies,
But even the trendies, if you ask them, but would you let him be your king? You know what I mean? Would you let him?
I remember taking a flight 2 or 3 years ago back to Ontario, and there was a mother and her daughter talking. Like, you should have heard how highly they spoke of the royal family. Like, they were cast in gold. You have no idea. Like, these people, like, they had the, when you go to Walmart and then you see the magazines sitting on the thing, like they read that shit and that was the gospel truth.
Yeah, but I don't know.
And I realized on that day that you say it's rare, but there's a lot of people, just because they don't speak about it openly doesn't mean they don't wholeheartedly believe in that. When it came down to it, if the queen were to stand up and say, "Bow before your queen," how many millions of people would drop to their knees?
Yeah, but they're losing support.
They are, but still, honestly, traditionally, they have a lot of support. A lot.
I don't think very many people would do that.
Because we live under a constitutional monarchy. Our country is built on that foundation that is illegitimate. Yeah. And then you got Terry down the bottom left there, who their people fought the crown.
Yeah, but they have the only true. We shot the bastards. Exactly. We shot the bastards. Go ahead, say it.
I like Ted Nugent's. They came for what was it, for tea, and we blew their fucking heads off or something like that.
Yeah.
I love that. No, I do. I love America. I love you guys are forged in blood. You know what I mean? Canada tried to colonize
You're
it.
so much more invested. Your ancestors
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
invest
Into the
money.
crown. Yeah,
They
into the crown, but I
invested
hate the
with their
crown. I hate
lives.
the
You
crown.
know?
Yeah.
Which is so much more.
The founding fathers were some
amazing.
smart men.
Yes.
They were wide, well beyond their years. The piece of paper, the contract with America, the Constitution, is probably the most well written piece of paper ever made.
Ever.
Because it doesn't, it's not there to put pressure on the people. It's there to put pressure on the government. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. They don't teach that in schools anymore.
No. That should be the number one.
Yes. Yes. It should be number one. Understand. Yeah. See, it used to be understood in America that it is every American's responsibility to know the law. That's why the term ignorance of the law is no excuse, because it wasn't. You're supposed to know the law, know what your rights are. If they don't teach you your rights, how do you know you even have them?
Well, isn't that kind of, Gerald, what you were saying? You know, learning, if you're living in an anarchical society, you're completely responsible for everything, right?
Yeah, you're responsible for everything that you do.
If you can't claim ignorance, you know what I mean? You have to know everything. You need to know your rights, and you need to know them well, and you need to know the language between the lines.
It's a responsibility, and there's no exception for responsibility. And think about it, even
wrong. It's exactly. If people can't understand basic right and wrong, there's something seriously wrong with the population. If you just common sense has gone out the window within 2 generations, it's gone. So the kids these days do not understand common sense. Shit, they can barely walk and text at the same time.
Yeah, but it's the rise and fall of the empire, isn't it? The 5 stages of empire.
I understand that I'm an old man. I've been around a long time. I want my kids to have a better life than I did. I understand. My parents wanted the same for me. But at what point do we make it so easy for them that they expect a handout?
I get what you're saying. So if every generation it's better, it'll get better and easier to the point where it's so easy and so good that it's like you don't have to do anything.
Well, you want to understand the suffering that it took to get here.
So you have to get to a limit. Excellent point.
Exactly. By that alone, you won't truly appreciate everything that you have. Because you don't understand what your forefathers went through to get this to you. You know, working electricity, running water, affordable housing.
Doesn't that mean that it's almost like your parents or at least your ancestors have to kind of keep you in a state, like deliberately make you struggle a little bit?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Kind of like the tribe in that, right?
Why do you think there's always the
struggle a little bit?
The stereotypical rich kid who has it all and he's a complete fucking asshole because he's never had to struggle for anything in life, right?
Does that make that kid any better than me? No.
Yeah, you see that exactly. You see that in a lot of stereotypes, but that's because it's real, because it's a real thing. You know, he's never had to suffer for anything in life.
Don't the Polish do that now? Like today, they teach every generation like the horrors. Like I know Polish and Germany, and that could be here or there, like the history or the truth. But the fact is, they teach their young, like, you know what I mean? The history, what they went through. You know what I mean? The horrors, the blah blah blah.
Yeah,
gives them more of a sense of you
could teach it. Teaching
and remember it. Right?
Living it is the first step.
It's like when I was a kid, we always had like everybody from World War II around. See this, Terry? You know what that is?
I can't see what you got. I can't see what you have.
History of the 1st Hussars Regiment.
This is the book.
A tank regiment, armored regiment in World War II. Family history.
It comes with like this is the actual book from the Army. It comes with the battle maps.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, because I said earlier in the episode,
what people did to fight for this country and what it meant to be a Canadian, and your grandfather stormed the beach, or your great uncle,
But that's part of the problem is when you have a population of people who have no history in this land. See, we're 9th, 10th generation. My children. What is it? 10 or 11 generations Canadian.
It goes back to
blood. We have
17,
blood
1800s,
land, right? Exactly, and we fought for it. We've been here a long time. We have real history here, so it means something to us. But when you have a giant population of people where they have no history here, they have no culture here, it doesn't mean anything to them. They can change it on a whim, and it wouldn't matter.
No,
Mm-hmm.
You know, your culture, the things that you hold dear to your heart. You know, and
your history,
your history. You know, everything. It's up for change as far as they're concerned. And especially one thing I find is that Canadian culture, as opposed to many other cultures that I've encountered around the world, is extremely vulgar and what many people would consider offensive. So automatically they want to change it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
to us,
so
that's
essentially you get masses of people here who don't like it.
Swearing, smoking dope, walking down the street with a beer in your hand, you know, acting crazy. And
hey, fucker.
That's normal. But if you don't think it's normal, then chances are you're not really Canadian. Like,
yeah,
that's just. But they want to change it because of that. Like, you know, people they don't have any roots in fucking, you know, they don't understand what that means when you hear guys say that. It's like
yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying.
The electoral in Canada is completely unfair. Like Alberta and that, they do get screwed. By the time the polls close in Ontario and the people are voting in Alberta, they're already announcing the winner because Ontario and Quebec hold all the seats, right?
Like fucking 60% of the seats are in 2 cities, Toronto and Montreal.
And that's where they're.
So imagine it's like
Toronto is just unreal.
And that basically dictates the rest of.
Yeah. So it's like the four western provinces are like half the country in terms of like volume, but they don't even, by the time they start counting their votes, they're already announcing the winner. Yeah.
So imagine.
So it's like your vote means nothing.
Imagine you're in Alberta and you're going to the polls. They already announced the winner. So what are you going to do? Are you going to vote for Max? Or are you going to try and vote strategically? You're going to vote.
Yeah, it's like they're already saying, "Oh, the Justin Trudeau's going to win by a short margin," and you haven't even voted yet.
So you don't.
The polls aren't even open yet in your neighborhood.
So it's like, you know, okay, we have a chance to get the Conservatives to win. They might not be Maxime Bernier, but they're better than Trudeau.
That's the difference between the Americans, and Terry could probably agree, is they have the Electoral College. So
yes, they're trying to do away with it, but that'll never happen.
Yeah, no. So Hillary did get the popular vote, but
Trump, no, what it is the American.
Everybody is represented equally.
From what I heard, the American system is broken up into 2 things. Locally, it's a democracy, but federally, it's a republic.
It's a constitution.
You know what I mean? So locally, you know what I mean? As a mayor, if you're being voted in as a mayor, majority wins, right? Yes. But if you're being voted in as a president, every state needs to be represented like equally. Because even if you have a little population or a big population, because California could essentially decide the fate for the whole country. You know what I mean? Because there's so many people there. Yeah. But every state has to be represented equally. So on a federal level, it's a republic in voting system. Yeah, exactly. Whereas on a local level, like mayors and governors, it's actual democracy where it's like majority rules.
Yeah. But that's
it's a better system. It's a better system. So imagine every province was represented equally. They had equal number of points.
Yeah, but they don't. The thing is, you got Toronto and Montreal. The 2 cities decide the fate of the entire
millions and millions of people living out in the country, and their voices don't get heard.
Down east, like
the key to winning the big election or the small elections. If you vote in your local government, if enough of them do it, it works on the big picture. You understand what I'm saying?
There you go.
So that's why local elections are so important. If you get like-minded people together and vote in your local elections, it has to affect on the federal level.
That is true. But with the electoral college kind of system, though, it's different, though, because it's like every state is worth so many. You know what I mean? Yeah. So in Canada, it's even more important because even on a federal level, it's majority rules.
So
no matter what, majority rules. You know what I mean? So on a local level, it's even more important in Canada because your MP is essentially a seat in the House of Commons, and whoever has the most seats wins the election.
And the most seats are centralized between Ontario and Quebec.
Yeah,
that's 90. That's like
the vast majority, like those Southern Ontario and Quebec, whatever they decide decides the fate of the country.
Pretty much the fate of the country. Yeah,
it's 10% of the land mass is deciding the fate of the rest of the 90%.
By the time Saskatchewan, Alberta, like BC goes to vote, because there's a 3-hour time difference.
No, there's no point in voting at that point.
They've already announced the winner because they already won enough seats to hold.
Yeah, your voting polls haven't even opened up yet, and they're already telling you who the prime minister is.
Yeah, so you're going in to vote. And Hillary Clinton is the
That's
president.
fucking bullshit.
Nothing good can come from that. Nothing good can come from that system.
No,
sorry.
And what's happening now is called Brexit, where the West wants to separate from the East because they don't have any say.
Yeah,
our country is actually on. There is a huge growing movement where it's going to split into two countries.
Right.
Same thing, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Let them succeed. Well, actually, isn't it Southern California? Because the North is more conservative, isn't it?
Yeah. It's. I think pretty sure it's from what I heard, Southern California kind of. They're going to dictate. You understand? No, the whole thing's a state, and they're going to dictate the Southern California, the giant cities. They're going to dictate the fate of the entire state. Yeah.
That's fucking.
Yeah.
But again, your
coastal Democrat.
Yeah. It's still far superior.
That's why Trump won, because of our system.
Yeah, exactly. But we don't have that system, though.
Yeah, we don't have that. We're completely different. We're a constitutional monarchy. You're a constitutional republic.
It's 100% pure majority rules, essentially. You know what I mean?
And
majority rules.
Everything comes down to the crown. The queen and the royal family own everything.
Crown.
The military.
The governor general is like the highest order in Canada. So when we're about to sign a law over, the governor general, who's essentially the crown, but in Canada, you know what I mean? He has to sign off. You know what I mean? Once he signs off, the governor general, it's become law. You know what I mean?
See our governor general?
But he's above even the prime minister.
That's what I put. He essentially is the crown made manifest on Canadian soil, essentially.
Canada is so corrupt right now. The head of the RCMP, which is our federal police, is Trudeau's finance minister's.
They're everywhere.
That's his sister-in-law. You know Bill Morneau, the ethics violation guy? Trudeau's.
Yeah.
That's his sister-in-law. She's the chief of police for the RCMP. And you remember the SNC Lavalin thing, the big scandal?
Yeah.
That's who was investigating it. A family fucking, like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, sure. That's how they do it.
Yeah,
it's fucked.
That's how they do it.
And
we got the same problem down here. We got the same thing.
The virus is connected, eh?
That's crazy. It's almost. This is why you can never get hopeless, because it almost makes you feel hopeless. Like, what do you do?
Watch the Rebel Media thing where Ezra Levant just got pulled into Trudeau's private police. They're two 30-year RCMP officers, both in like terrorism and counterterrorism, whatever. They're questioning him because he wrote a book against Trudeau during the election.
Well, sure.
But he secretly videotaped it, even though it's completely 100% legal. This is like, we're bordering on dictatorship here. We're right on the precipice where you're being pulled in for writing a book about the.
We already have the Human Rights Commission.
Yeah, here in BC.
Where if you speak what they consider hate speech. So if you say anything that's anti-transgender, whatever, they can pull you into. It's an unofficial court system where it's not actually part of government, but they'll drag you into it anyway and more or less sue you I don't think anybody's been jailed because of it, but yeah, you'll get sued for large sums of money.
Yeah.
As reprimands for the words that you speak.
Okay,
let
me cut in here. Terry's on a different time zone than us, so he's gonna have to take off out of the stream. So Terry, thank you for joining us. You know, it was good to have an American perspective.
Actually, you made some amazing points, man. Amazing points.
It's always nice to have a guy like with your perspective on the show. So we'll talk to you soon, okay, big guy?
All right, I'll talk to you, Tom.
Okay, Godspeed, man. Bye-bye. So that was pretty interesting, eh?
Yeah, he raised a point, kind of gave me an epiphany about how if every generation does better and it gets easier for every generation and the generation before, it'll get so easy to the point where you will never be able to become an adult. You will be a perpetual child because you've never had to suffer or work for anything.
We're living in right now.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it is. Isn't that
development?
Hold on. Isn't that the final stages of an advanced civilization? Though,
according to what we know, but it doesn't mean it has to be that way.
No, it doesn't have to be. But the point is every great civilization got to a point where it's so easy, and then after a few hundred years, it collapses. And then
the grandchildren,
and then it's kind of like the process starts all over again. It's an organic process.
Which one of you two was it told me about the mice? And they kept themselves beautiful.
Oh, that's the Mice Utopia experiment.
Ones? Yeah, I watched that many times.
Thing, because it is utopia in a sense where things get so easy. You've never had to suffer. You're just born into this thing.
Yeah.
Everything you want, right?
Yeah.
And
well, you become an introvert. You become
self-sexuality.
Hold on, no, Dad. When relative to the Mice Utopia experiment, essentially what happens, the Mice Utopia experiment, they have like the ultimate place where it's like all the food and water and nesting grounds are all set up. Yeah. So the first couple weeks, they call it like the chaos period, where it's kind of like all the mice are fighting and they're establishing mating rights and they're establishing their own nesting grounds. And then there comes like a calm period where the fighting stops because everybody's like land is essentially established, and there's a massive growth spike. Okay. So children are being born, and there's so much land, everything's abundant, and it gets to a point where imagine all the land is taken, all the land is conquered, and the new males that are born can't claim their own territory and their own mating rights because there's no more land to give out. There's no more, females for the male to the mate and have more children. So the males kind of start becoming reclusive. They kind of step outside of society, and they become known as the beautiful ones because they're not fighting for territory and they're not fighting for male mating rights or anything. So they have no scars on their body. They're constantly grooming because they have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point where the population becomes stagnant and then eventually completely collapses because it's like being a male lion in a savanna where there's no land for you to establish yourself. You know what I mean? And it really comes down to what it comes down to is the break.
You lose your sexuality, though, right?
Yes, but it comes down to the breakdown of the man or the male and million species. So humans, what do when they want to take down a society with all this feminism shit and lowering men's testosterone? And that is disable the male, the men. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with the society of the mice and the Mice Utopia experiments, the males that become the beautiful ones. You
can take that experiment and actually apply it to real life.
That's what they did. They realized that this has happened, and you can see this in human civilization. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's happening today. You have these men who are like perfectly sculpted, perfect skin, perfect beards, never been in a fight, never would get in a fight, won't fight war. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he will never be scarred. He'll never be know what it means to struggle because he's living off his rich parents' money.
When there's no outside world to turn to, you turn to the inner world, right? You become an introvert. You become all about yourself.
Yeah.
So your own beautification, your own
that's
preservation
what I'm
have
trying to
become key priorities in life as opposed to, the greater world.
Yeah, but isn't there a point where you actually become feminized and start wearing dresses or?
Or you don't have to start wearing dresses.
No, what that
to become
is, no, what,
feminized,
what,
you know what I
no,
mean?
no,
Like,
what that
when you
is
say feminized is basically anything that is, what is it, in or like masculine. You know what I mean? Non-masculine. Because when you become feminized, it doesn't mean you wear a dress, but you're not fulfilling the male potential to its fullest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but but the feminization of men is a natural process in the dying culture. You know,
Well, yeah, because
in the end times in Roman Empire, there was castration cults where men would go around as eunuchs with a dick and no balls, and they would castrate men in order to be accepted
everything
into
from
this shit.
Yes. And isn't that what's happening in Western culture now? Like,
in a way, but it's like a metaphorical castration.
And energy.
And men are castrated. Transgenders are cutting their nuts off and turning their dick inside out. You know what I mean?
Everything.
Or taking like hormones and puberty blockers or.
But that's a type of castration, though. It kills your testosterone levels, and you become this weak, pathetic, depressed man.
Yes.
You know what I mean? With tiny nuts.
Well,
and
what happens with that? Society collapses,
everything.
and due to that, it creates suffering, and that suffering creates good men.
Yeah, there's a saying
which
for
rise
that.
up against
I know. But that doesn't mean we're at the point where this is going to collapse.
Yeah, but what's that saying?
No, you don't know when it's going to collapse. This could have happened.
No, I don't know. I'm not predicting when. I'm not a doomsday predictor. What I'm saying is,
so many people that say
it's heading towards that, though. It's heading towards that. Might be 100 years from now. Might be 150 years from now. Our civilization is in the last breaths of it. We're on the decline. You know, everything rises, peaks, and then goes down. Everything in life.
I'm gonna post this in the
I know
chat.
that. That's what I'm trying to say by the to and fro. The frequency.
I'm gonna post this in the chat.
Everything kind of has its own frequency. Its highs and its lows.
So hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
Yeah, it's an endless cycle.
Right?
I can't hear anybody.
You can't hear us?
No.
You can't. Yeah, he went out. So what do you think of that saying, G-Rod?
I agree with it, though. I mean, I don't know if I agree. I don't know if I believe that's the only way that things...
It was
ever happen or ever
the
will be.
Bluetooth cut out for a second.
Okay. I'm going to step out. You guys continue for a second. I'm going to use the bathroom.
Yeah. Joe, continue.
I was saying to Dad, because you heard what he was talking about, right? Before you left.
Yeah. Hard times create good men, or whatever. Like the saying. I can't recite it perfectly, but yeah.
I think that's not necessarily the way things absolutely have to be. It's not the way they always were, but it's the way they definitely are now.
I disagree with you. I think
I don't
look at the way it's always been.
Yeah, is it though? Yeah,
yes.
It all depends on
up until now, at the very least. Up until now, at the very least.
And Christianity, and I can change that. See, I mean, natural law, as far as I'm concerned, dictates otherwise. That you already know the rules within you. You don't need someone to tell you what's right and wrong. You already know what. But if you lived in a culture that practiced that, then it wouldn't be as much of an issue as it is today. See, that's kind of where
don't we have a culture that practices that though?
No, but again, that's where the problem multiculturalism comes in, because you bring in many people with many different belief systems, and of course they're going to fight. But if you have, I never said the whole world would be at peace. I said one society at least would be at peace, or maybe not at peace, but it would be functioning according to natural law. What humans are basically designed and destined to follow, where no not even one. No one man or group of men or women or people or whatever you want to call it has
all
rule
men
over
are
any
equal.
other.
All men are
Exactly.
equal. No, all
Everybody's
people. Everybody's equal.
Yeah.
If you're an adult, sound human being, you're all equal. I get
you're
that.
responsible for your own actions, and you're held accountable for your
You know,
own
and I
actions.
think to a certain
No
extent,
other person has the
to
right
a certain
tell you.
extent, it is like that. Like, even though we have the fear of the cops, but you can do whatever you want. It is like that. We
More or less.
naturally, settle into that. You know what I mean?
Well, there's things like the jaywalking. You know, you walk across the street and someone's trying to extort money from you because
I know.
neighborhood,
And
walking across the street against
that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. That is only enforced by police. But if you right now where you are, where's the police? You can walk outside with a beer. You can talk. The point is everybody naturally lives in peace.
You're right, but you're absolutely right, and I still do that. I still walk around in public with a beer all the time. I've even walked children to school or gone to pick them up from school with a beer, sitting in the stroller, just minding my own business. Nobody cares. But at the same time, they're implementing technology, and it's only going to get worse into the future, especially as we go into the future, that will increasingly prevent you from being able to do those things. So say, you could say, Canada has so much wilderness, we could just walk off in the wilderness, do our own thing, live our lives, be on with it. That's fine. Until you start implementing Google Maps and they're looking for smoke trails, this, that, or whatever, they'll be able to tell, some guy's having a bonfire. What about 100, 200 years from now when technology is so good, the second you light a bonfire, there's going to be
automatically
some ranger squad coming down on your ass in a helicopter, and your whole fucking day is ruined. Never mind your day, your entire life is ruined because
carbon monoxide. Carbon dioxide.
You know what I mean? Yeah. They'll have satellite images of it, which they already do.
One thing people don't talk about.
Hold on, because can I make one point? Can I make one point? I get your point.
As an example, they're using satellite images to detect renovations and extensions onto people's homes or fences around pools or anything. It doesn't matter. You buy a house nowadays, and 5 years later, you're getting a big fat fucking lawsuit in the mail because the government discovered that 2.5 years ago you decided to extend your house by so many feet or whatever, but you didn't apply for a permit. And they've used Google Maps to discover that. They measure the fucking square footage of your home and everything, realize it doesn't add up, and now they're cracking down in every way, shape, and possible. Eventually,
I get that.
Living in the wilderness won't be enough.
What I was saying though is the moment that we can't make a fire, is truly outlawed. I know they put on fire bans, but technically you can still have a bonfire. It's just blah blah blah. My point is when it's truly illegal. Like, you are never under any circumstance allowed to build a fire. That's when you have no choice but to truly fight, because that is the most human thing that you can do is build a fire.
Something about that
you know what I mean?
Fire.
Building a fire is humanity. Standing around a fire.
We were taught that.
Fire built the
imagine you weren't allowed though. They truly outlawed it. No more fires.
Well, remember, we were.
You know what I mean? Like, you truly lost what it means to be a human being.
Well, hold on. Remember, we were looking into it, and we discovered that as long as you're in the inner city, or if you're within the confined space of your backyard, it was illegal to have a fire. But if you were in the forest or the wilderness, it was fine. So they had backyard fire bans. It was literally in BC here. It was called a backyard fire ban, where pretty much you weren't allowed to have a fire in your backyard. You weren't allowed to have a fire under any controlled circumstances. But if you were camping you could be deep in the mountains, whatever. Anything goes. You do it. How hypocritical and contradictory is that in a statement? You can't have a fire in your own backyard, but you're allowed to have a fire in the great wide wilderness. Like, what's the difference?
Well, you
Were you-
can't.
When's the last time a modern city, never mind the London fire, but when's the last time a modern city burned down because
Burn
some
down,
guy had a
Yeah, but I'm
fire
on,
in his
It's
I'm on the,
extreme. Usually it's arson.
I'm on
99% of the time
when's
it's
the last time
arson.
a city, though? A city.
Hey,
a
Or
large
like an accident.
portion of land. No, even an accident, one house burns down.
I'm on the local
Dude,
social
who
media
cares?
pages here, and
Yeah.
I'll see comments during the summer as I seen a guy at the McDonald's drive-thru. He flicks his cigarette out the window and it bursts into flames. In a
Fake. That's 100% fake. That's total
That's what
bullshit.
people are saying, though.
Flicks his
People are
cigarette. I
like,
know. I've
they're
heard
out of
that.
their
Too. It's like a guy
Wait,
flicks
so
his cigarette and
the
it's
cigarette
bursting
lands on the
into
ground
flames.
and it's.
Yeah, but next thing you know,
Yeah, but
there's a
that's-
countrywide
Hold
wildfire.
on.
No, it's a.
If it was just
typical
dry
scary
brush,
person.
if it was just dry brush, and you throw a cigarette, you know what I mean? The cigarette's smoldering, and then as the wind blows, it slowly
take
starts to
time.
smolder,
You have
starts
to
spreading. It would take
National
like
Geographic
actually take
and watch it for
who
10
knows?
hours.
Yeah, a couple hours before the fire
Yeah.
actually becomes a flame.
Well, a
You know
lot
what
of
I mean?
people. A lot of people don't know this, like the big Australia fires and that. Number one is probably geoengineering, but that's
It doesn't
here and
matter.
there.
It's natural.
But-
In BC, there's like 500 fires a year, man. There has
Wait,
been
Gerald, let him speak.
But the indigenous of Australia have been control burning, the leftover brush and that.
Yeah.
They've been burning that off for thousands of years.
Fucking
They're
tens
not-
of thousands of
They're not
years.
allowed to do that anymore. So that stuff builds up. That's fuel, right?
Yeah, so essentially they understood it's like, hey, this place is getting like it's become overgrown. It's gonna burn. So let's burn it now so it doesn't become a much worse fire 100 years down the road.
Yeah, they did that
When
all over the world.
when
They
I
did
look
it.
at
Not to
maps of
mention,
BC,
even
BC wildfires, you look 99% of them are so far from civilization. It's like deep mountains where there's nobody and nothing. And
but hold on though, Gerald. Even you talked.
It's natural, man. You're
Actually,
living in the forest. Shit's
hold
gonna
on.
burn down. It's like
Even
living
you
in
talked
Tornado
about
Alley
is
and
in
tornadoes
southern
down the
Ontario.
valley.
Yeah, in southern Ontario, when the North American natives ruled the land, they did the same thing. Apparently,
Yeah,
they used even in the plains and that they use controlled fires and everything to get the desired land that you want. You know what I mean? So it's like you don't want too many trees. You want to encourage the growth of like plains animals.
Southern Ontario, right, or technical, like if you want to call it like native homeland where we come from. They said was a massive grove of. It was like a buffet from one end to the other. It was nothing but an old hardwood forest that was cultivated by the natives who lived there. They pretty much burned down all the other trees. They only let the old hardwood, like nuts and fruit trees, survive. And they cultivated massive fields of,
But they said it was also,
veggies,
imagine, not only is it fruit and everything, but deer in between them all.
Deer, moose, bear,
herds of deer. Yeah,
whatever. They pretty much turned, and they did the Amazon, same thing. They said the entire Amazon apparently was cultivated by humanity over a course of who knows how many years. And that's why most trees in the Amazon are suited for growing fruit and nuts and edibles.
Yeah, but that's not what we're told. We were told they were starving, suffering, but that's not exactly true.
What's his name? Brian or something like that? The guy who talks about the Amazon?
Graham Hancock.
Yeah, Graham Hancock. I don't know why I thought it was Brian.
Yeah.
What he's saying is, as they cut down the Amazon rainforest, they're discovering like landscapes and everything that could only be made by human beings.
According to him, the entire Amazon was cultivated by humans. It was all a giant.
It was a garden. It was a giant garden created by human beings.
Yeah,
and it's a little bit off topic.
It's not impossible. It's not impossible.
They say the Sahara Desert is up for debate. It went from the most lush, greenest lands.
Okay, Gerald's doing the bathroom.
Yeah, Gerald just froze. He just froze. What he's saying too is, and I was watching an African guy who lived in Africa, and he's famous for taking like the biggest, most heroic. I know. the biggest, most heroic doses of mushrooms.
Yeah.
Apparently, this guy takes like 20, 30 grams at a time.
The black guy? The black guy?
Yeah, black dude.
Yeah, that guy.
And
Wow.
he was talking about what was it? How Africa, essentially the whole Sahara Desert and all the north used to be a giant jungle, and over time, as time goes on, Africa actually gets drier and drier. You know what I mean? And that's how the Sahara Desert formed, and there's a whole fucking
And
it used to be a giant lake or something there.
There you are. You kind of
change the view though. Change the view back to the way it was.
Okay.
Internet crapped out. You know how it is.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all good.
So
it was funny, your face position.
Your eyes are rolled back.
Yeah.
But history is not what we're told. We don't know who
we'll
we
never
are.
know though. We'll never know.
That's
It's kind of like Terrence McKenna and the stoned ape theory. He always said it's like apes would have came across psychedelic mushrooms and in a starving, you see this giant mushroom.
A similar
you
documentary, but it was about time.
And you would go on this trip. But the point is what he's saying is it's actually impossible to prove. You can never prove this. You can never prove that prehistoric man was eating mushrooms, but it's just a plausible theory.
If mushrooms were there and prehistoric man was there,
it doesn't matter. You can make all the correlations you want. That doesn't mean we actually did.
I'm just saying that you can't tell me that if you were walking through the woods and you seen a mushroom and you were starving or whatever the case might be.
That's what you're saying.
You're gonna test it, right?
Was it on bull patties back in the day? The mushrooms would grow like this big.
Okay, but I want to ask
you. Tell me, no man ever ate that.
I want to ask you guys a question.
Ever.
Okay.
That's bullshit.
Go ahead.
The Book of Enoch describes certain angels teaching mankind certain things, right? Like agriculture, war, like metallurgy.
Yeah.
So if you look at ayahuasca, it's the root, say, of one plant, and then something thousands of miles away of another. You know what I mean? There's multiple ingredients in it.
Yeah.
How is that possible? And then, before you say anything, multicultural. So many cultures discovered this.
Yeah.
How?
I know what you're saying is because I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying is what it is many plants contain DMT. But the thing is your body has an enzyme in the stomach that breaks down DMT.
Yes.
And the ayahuasca vine, what it is, it's an inhibitor where it inhibits that enzyme from operating and it allows you to digest DMT.
Yes.
Right? But the point is the digestible version of DMT is psilocybin mushrooms. Psilocybin is like one oxygen molecule different from DMT. It's the ingestible.
Is a combination of
there's several different plants. Yes, several different plants.
The other ones are not located for thousands of miles, thousands.
Yes, so you have to. How did they discover that? Combining them.
Or you could always argue that it would create such a religious experience that you'd be willing to sacrifice.
No.
What
was the first human? What was the first human that boiled it all together into a stew?
I
know that's again human history goes back.
I could actually answer that.
Thousands of years, in my opinion, farther than what you're taught.
What's your answer?
I could answer that question in a sense. So, say the root of the ayahuasca is a psilocybin.
No, that's guavine. Yeah. No, it's not psilocybin.
But there's multiple trades within say a 10,000 square foot mile radius. They might have this ingredient that they use, and I might have this, and we might trade.
Yeah.
And that way,
that's actually the thing is anything that contains DMT. If you eat it, you're going to feel zero results. You have to have ayahuasca vine because the ayahuasca vine inhibits the enzyme in your stomach from digesting DMT.
Yeah, but they may have ate ayahuasca. They may have ate the DMT leaves or whatever.
Yeah, but the DMT leaves wouldn't have done anything. It would have no effect on you.
But was it edible and nutritious?
Hold on.
No,
the ayahuasca
vine,
vine in and of itself does cause minor effects.
Yes.
So if you just drink ayahuasca vine, like boil it and drink it, you'll have some, like, I don't remember exactly what they are. They say it's kind of similar to alcohol. You'll have effects. You know what I mean? But the thing is hundreds, thousands of plants contain DMT, and I've watched many documentaries with these guys in the jungle, and there's many plants that are local to these tribes that have the ayahuasca vine that contain DMT. And you boil the ayahuasca vine and the DMT together, and it becomes ingestible DMT.
So that's what they're ingesting?
Yes, it's DMT.
Okay, so they have the ayahuasca vine, and then they're taking local growth that has DMT in it.
Yes, you have DMT in you. Your lungs produce DMT.
From what I
don't you produce massive amounts when you are born and when you die?
What I'm learning is these are combinations of the ayahuasca vine and things that you can't get for thousands of miles.
Yeah.
And
it's just like the stones of Egypt. They say they
there's many
kilometers away, basically.
I know there's many, but ayahuasca ingredients.
Dad, I know what you're saying, but there's actually there's debates whether ayahuasca is actually relatively new.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where if you go back 300-400 years ago, they never drank ayahuasca.
Okay.
Whereas the mushroom it's pure in its form. You don't need an extra vine. It's like a form of DMT, and they say high volume mushroom trip. So if you eat 5 to 10 grams of mushrooms, it's actually similar to DMT.
Okay.
It's extremely similar. The experience and the hallucinations and everything is very close to DMT. It's DMT and it's like ingestible form. It's already pure. You don't need any extra ingredients. You know what I mean? And that's why the mushroom cultures have been eating it for what they estimate for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah, but my question is how did the people, where is it, in Peru, primarily, to have ayahuasca? They had the vine, but how did they find the ultimate ingredient?
Hold on. Can I tell you something about DMT? There's two types of ingestible DMT. It's NN-DMT and 5-MeO-DMT. So NN-DMT, there's two main things. In the 5-MeO-DMT, you can capture these toads in like Mexico and Southern United States. And you squirt it onto a thing and you scrape it. You know what I mean? Yeah, but that was a thing. No, you can't lick it. Lick it won't do anything because your body can't digest it. You have to smoke it. Because your body naturally has enzymes in the gut that break down DMT. That's why you need the ayahuasca vine. You know what I mean? Because it inhibits those enzymes. But anyways, this smoking of the toad is like 50, 60 years old. The indigenous people never did this. It was never a thing. This is new. You know what I mean?
How would they know?
Because a guy that for some reason I even watched a documentary. The guy's breaking down the first person to ever smoke the toad, and he was actually a mystery guy, and they couldn't get a hold of him. Didn't know who he was, and he was the first guy in the 1960s to write down the effects of smoking it and everything. And apparently, it was like he discovered there was DMT inside this frog venom, so he just smoked it.
Yeah, it's
probably he went on this extreme trip,
sitting there. Killed the toad. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna try and smoke a piece.
Who knows? Exactly.
Tripped out
and see God because remember 5-MeO-DMT is like 4 or 5 times more powerful than regular DMT, NN-DMT. So it's extremely potent. They said when you smoke it, you see God, you see the source.
What you perceive.
Something I find to be a common theme is people assume that in ancient times, or it doesn't matter, you go back 100 years, you go back 100,000 years, it wouldn't matter. They assume that no one ever experiments, no one ever thinks the way that we do, no one ever thinks about beyond the horizon, like, what if I did this? They always act like everything that ancient man did was absolutely logical. It's like,
no, that's not true. That's not true.
No, I'm saying is when I see a lot of people, they act as though that is the case. I never said that was the case. So when you see comments
I know
and
what
you're
you're
talking to
saying. I
people
know what
that
you're
they
saying.
always
Yeah.
act like ancient man would never do that. So why not? Would you? Would your neighbor? Would Jimmy the Brad down the street? Of course they would. So
But
what makes
should
you
I
think
do-
that in ancient times there wasn't some dummy thinking the same thing? I'm going to smoke this and see what happens, or whatever. And they stumble onto something
That's a
completely
very
new,
good
right?
point. I explained that
Just
to
because you're living in a society where, say, survival is more prevalent. I said it wrong. Prevalent. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that people aren't going to experiment and go on their own whims and do shit just like they do today. I mean, what do you think created human culture? Was human beings.
people were smoking.
We do all kinds of weird outside the norm, and it might not have been like I said as prevalent in ancient cultures and that, but you can't say that there was no human being who ever pushed the limits, who ever tried to see, like, let's smoke a stone, let's smoke dirt, let's smoke that mushroom and just see what happens. Like, fuck it, let's eat everything and see what kind of gives us a different effect. Like, you never know what a human being is going to do or where he's going to take that.
Young people were doing that.
I agree.
In the 90s, they discovered that if you smoke formaldehyde or if you ingest it, stuff our bodies with, you get a
high
buzz. Yeah,
and they were digging up graves in that, and this is like a phenomenon.
That's what I mean. Like, people will go to any extent to discover something new.
Yeah, you know why?
New
Right?
realms,
Hold on. You know why? You know what the final frontier is? You know why, right?
Yeah.
The final frontier. It isn't space. The final frontier is the consciousness. And the thing is psychedelics is what allows you to truly delve into the consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a thing.
Yeah, but I want to add something.
People have been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years.
Thousands.
You can't even discuss like how and why certain drugs were
discovered. The thing is, we're rediscovering it as a society,
humans are still discovering even new drugs. We'll try anything. Fucking smoke a table. Whatever it takes. You know what I mean? To get high in a different kind of way. We were always that way.
Tom Guns?
Okay, I got to add this because the idea of ancient man is, to me, is a little bit preposterous. Because if a man, say 2,000 to 5,000 years ago, had the same brain and the same capacity as we do to think today, think about that.
That's a terrible argument, though. Hold on.
Let me finish. The fact that we were riding horse and buggies for like 10,000 years and then all of a sudden had this epiphany. We built
No. That's a terrible argument. Terrible argument.
It's not. I believe
yes, it is.
It's not. Okay, say civilization.
I know what your argument is. I know what you're saying. So it's like if we had the same mind 10,000 years ago, why didn't we just advance?
We did.
Why didn't we think of better ideas?
Whether we did or didn't doesn't matter. I'm talking about the experimentation, like your ability, your desire to push the unknown. Where even if you're living in an ancient and tribal society, there's always going to be some person that says like, "Hey, no one else did this before. I'm going to try it. I'm going to fucking smoke this dirt and see what it does." You know what I mean? And it turns out dirt gets you really fucking high.
Hold on. Did you know in some tribes you can catch these certain poisonous fish and you cook their heads and you eat the head and suck out the brain and you get high off the fish?
Yes, but I'm not talking about that.
They've been doing it for thousands of years.
If you look at a historical fact that the pyramids are there, Noah's Ark is probably there, like these super ships, maybe a pre-Adamic global civilization, pre-Adam.
Yeah. What's your point?
The point is how could if a man could think the way, like if they had the same intelligence as we did today, what
doesn't mean they have the same knowledge, though.
What took so long?
My point is,
it does not mean they have the same knowledge.
I was going to say this earlier. Dad, there's something at the end. Dad,
look at the architecture.
Listen.
Well, the architecture was better, but it doesn't mean
Tom Guns. You have to imagine it. You have to imagine it like this. Gerald, shut up.
Kinetic energy.
G-Ride, shut up.
God,
Tom Guns. Listen. I know. I knew I was going to be the worst. But anyways, listen. Sorry, say your point one more time because you distracted me and I forgot.
Man had the same mind and the same capacity and the same
Oh
IQ.
yeah. I remember.
You didn't know the same things. Yeah.
I remember.
The evidence is all around the world.
Listen. Tom Guns. Listen. Guns. You cannot imagine the things that have not been invented yet. Okay.
You can't imagine
so
the future
listen to
tomorrow,
this.
right?
30 years ago, could you have imagined being a professional YouTube gamer?
Actually, yeah. Because when I was
But
7
you say actually, yeah, but it wasn't even real. It wasn't even real. No,
Hold on.
That's
what
not
I'm saying
true.
is, Gerald, shut up.
It wasn't actually. Yeah.
Maybe
you couldn't even imagine live streaming. Like
Gerald, shut up.
When I was 7 years old, you know what they told us on the news and everything? Is in the future, you're going to be able to see the person you're talking to on your phone.
Yeah, but it was a dream.
Maybe that's a bad example. I'm sorry.
I'm sure cavemen always imagine I could talk to another tribe instantly.
G-Ride.
Right?
G-Ride.
Cavemen
Let me continue my point.
The concept of Wi-Fi and wireless technology.
Let me continue my point. I'm sorry. Bad example.
No. It's a great example.
What I'm saying, a better example.
Where like, imagine one day you can touch the screen and it's like a button and we used to imagine it. Yeah, but it doesn't mean it was ever real. We never actually
Hold on, Drew. Wait. Let me fucking say my point. Let me say my point. Shut up. Sorry, that was a bad example. And you know what, Gerald, you're wrong. Is if you can imagine it, chances are you can make it a reality. Okay? But imagine, imagine like say 500 years ago, they could not have fathomed a cell phone.
Of course they could.
You could not have imagined one day we're going to have a cell phone, a device that you could hold in your pocket, see your own face. Like if you had TV technology and you had all like the latest scientists and you had electricity, you can kind of like think 50 years into the future.
Come on, man. You see technology in movies in the 90s compared to now, and it's
what I'm saying is Dad is asking the question, like, why didn't these ancient men, if they had the same mind that we had, discover the,
because they don't have the same knowledge.
Because they don't know. If you don't know that electricity is possible or ever existed, you will never know. It's not even. It's not gonna appear in your mind one day. Electricity is real.
What about the Baghdad battery? The Baghdad battery. That's a fact. The pyramids are there.
It's not a fact. It's a theory.
But maybe they express their intelligence in other ways.
I know. People talk about that where there's like multiple types of technology.
Yeah, they express it in different ways.
Or what it is that we had technology 10, 15, 20,000 years ago.
That's kind of where
but we lost it, and we kind of like, Egyptian times and ancient Sumeria, they remember, just 500 years ago, we used to live in these grand cities, but it's 500 years later, and you've almost forgotten everything. I don't think, this is what your whole point is, if we had the same minds, why didn't we know advanced mathematics? Why didn't we understand science? It's kind of like it's kind of like the Iceman. The Iceman, right?
Yeah.
The guy who's found the copper axe and everything. He was just a guy.
Yeah.
He ate food. He walked from one town to the other. He hunted. He farmed. He had wife and kids. He's not like on the forefront of science and learning and understanding and. Especially back then, that kind of stuff.
That's what we're told. We were told this by the same people who tell us evolution is real when it is a theory.
Even if evolution
isn't real,
it doesn't matter whether it's real or not.
We don't know.
Is bunk at best.
Okay, go on.
Even if evolution isn't real. Forget evolution. Even if we were anatomically, perfectly, genetically human 100,000 years ago, if all you know is building a fire, making flint knives, and hunting animals, you're not going to have this innate knowledge where you just know all the answers of the world. You just climb mountains and hunt deer. You know what I mean? You can't imagine anything. You don't have access to universities and libraries and advanced knowledge.
I want to add something to that, though. What if the guy that they did find was directly or a generation after the flood or the Great Cataclysm that obviously happened?
Yeah.
There was a flood. There was something happened.
Yeah.
And even Terrence McKenna and what's the guy's name? The geologist, get into that.
No, I know. They talk about how even if you go to ancient Samaria and you read the Epic of Gilgamesh, they talk about a great flood. And so obviously this was something that happened.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. Some great cataclysmic event happened.
Even the Chinese talk
about. Gotta listen to the Epic of Gilgamesh, recreated by the guy. He has the what's it called? The guitar.
I don't know.
The Middle Eastern guitar.
Dad,
the sitar.
Guns. It's gonna take me a while to get used to it.
Yeah.
It's the first episode.
It's the first episode. What are you drinking, John?
Rickards.
Yeah, that's what I'm drinking too. That looks really dark. Gerald? He's on welfare here.
Yeah.
That's why he's
Brew's pretty good. I was gonna get Rickards, but
I like the banquets.
More expensive.
I like
banquets are good though. They are good. They're better than Coors Light. I fucking hate Coors Light, man.
Uncle used to drink Milwaukee, but there was another one, Milwaukee something.
There's a couple of Milwaukees.
No, wasn't Milwaukee's best. It doesn't matter. The point is mankind expressed.
Dad, you have a perfect gray stripe right down the center of your beard. Joe, look at it. Look at the color.
That's the soul patch if I ever seen one.
Stop touching it. Yeah, that is the soul patch.
It's awful.
Go like this. Yeah, there you go. You look more beardly and caveman.
That is the caveman. I was gonna shave. It's like, well, we're the Canadian cavemen, so we can't, right? And then Joe shows up clean shaven. You got the partial, and I got the full.
I can't grow anything outside of this, though.
You got one line.
This is maximum. I know. One line here.
Yeah. Is that left?
It's opposite.
Yeah.
But nothing here.
No. It'll come.
Yeah, but I can't grow shit. I know. I know.
I got T-Bone.
This is it.
T-Bone's praying on me right now.
Is he watching?
It's been a bad evening, and I'm not really in the right mind.
Can't do a 10-second tidbit?
Yeah.
Can he do a 10-second tidbit? I gotta ask him. I gotta go pee.
You have to actually give him 10 seconds, though.
Tidbit.
10-second and cutoff time.
Yeah. He's having a rough time. It's tough. Go over there on the island right now.
What's going on in the island?
So, well, for the viewers who don't know, we are in British Columbia. We support the pipelines, and I think for all Canadians, we're all feeling the pressure. Was it 50% of Canadians are $200 away from insolvency? And believe me, I'm past
200 or 500 at most.
I'm way past that. I'm hanging on. I don't even know how I'm hanging on, and I'm sure a lot of my Canadian brothers and sisters feel the same way. It's tough.
Yeah.
We're working our asses off. We're trying to do something, but we need a change in this country. And the strange thing is Canadians support Trump, and they want to be like the Americans and everything. And you could chime in on this, G-Rod. But it's American interests that are stopping our resources.
Yes, from what I've heard.
Yes.
It's American, Canadian, it's international. There's people from multiple countries here.
But the majority is American interests stopping our energy reserves. And yet everybody wants to go And Trump should be our leader. Blah 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 blah. It's bullshit. I'm drunk.
Yeah.
But that's the truth. So for all you out there who happen to watch this or make it this far into the stream, watch over a barrel and you'll see. There's Terry Fluff. So what are you looking up there, G-Rod?
The latest and greatest, as usual.
Okay, but you look pretty into it, so you must have a rebuttal to what we were talking about.
I wouldn't really say a rebuttal. But, we more or less agree on most things. But, it's hard to say where things are going in the future, especially when it comes, like, in regards to this country.
Canada's gone. It's probably true.
That's again, that's kind of the nihilistic view, though, that we were saying we didn't have, right?
I don't have it. The Canada that I grew up in, my parents.
Yeah, it feels gone. It definitely feels gone for all of us. But I mean, you got to think, what's it going to take to get that back? And did it even mean anything to begin with, right? You could think that you knew this Canada, but for all you know, you grew up in a liberal utopia, right?
Canada's always been liberal. Liberal has been skewed. Liberal does mean liberty and freedom.
Well, there's liberal and there's leftist.
Let's scoot over to white privilege because I thought about this earlier. Okay.
All right, now you mentioned the word. Hold on. You guys go ahead.
Come on, all I hear is white privilege, right?
No, but seriously, like they say that there's white privilege, European whites are the enemy, and that my mother, your grandmother, was raised in a 4x4 hut off the Niagara River with her mother and her little sister, and suffered dearly. And then my dad was tied to the porch, and your papa was locked in the basement. How is this white privilege? These are the people that built this country.
Honestly, Tom Guns, you don't even have to look that far back.
Well, that's my mother.
Yes.
No, I mean, I know that, but just think about yourself.
Yeah, and our life.
Did you get away from the police automatically because you're white? Did he ever say, "Oh, you have a big bag of weed on you, but I'm gonna let you go because you're white"?
No.
Never happened. Did you ever get a job because you're white? You know what I mean? How many jobs have you been rejected from, and how many times did you literally have to slave for a little bit of money?
Yeah.
We've slaved together.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And for a little bit of money, a tiny bit of money.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And just see this in the news, and we're racist, and then you see the Canadian.
It actually hurts. It hurts.
Does. Let's pull up what okay,
let's see.
The Canadian, what is it? Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Give me a second. I'm going to go on here. And let's see what the Canadian military is saying about people like me and you. I think we already pulled this up earlier in the stream, didn't we?
I can't remember.
And my computer's acting like an idiot. Yeah, the white supremacist thing.
All right, Mama. I love you. Talk to you tomorrow.
Wasn't it? Hi, are you on the internet?
Nope.
I think my wife is on the internet. And where did
I'm not.
Okay.
Gerald left.
I almost found it here. Just give me 1 second. And I'll show you what they put out to their soldiers. And then you tell me I apologize, everybody. This is what happens when you smash back.
Have a true caveman operating the systems.
It's like words, and it's like it's what's that movie called? The Ben Stiller movie?
Zoolander.
I don't remember.
Zoolander. Remember the computer
files inside the computer.
That's the 2001: A Space Odyssey. Okay, so Gerald. Or wait, where's G-Rod?
G-Rod.
Okay. I don't want to see the stupid teachers on strike.
What are you trying to show us?
I'm trying to. My computer's acting. Oh, here we go. Finally. I couldn't see it. It's not loading properly, but now it's loaded. So
okay.
I apologize to everybody.
That's fine.
And 1 second. It's very hard to read. This is what true Canadians do, though. You smash back beers.
Have an amazing time.
Have an amazing time. Try to read
We
things.
just need some trees in the background.
Yeah.
I agree, because that represents
a couple
so
lakes.
much wilderness here. So much trees and so much wilderness.
If I'm not in the wilderness, I don't feel at home.
I found it.
Exactly.
I found it. So we'll X out of that. We'll come back to here. Let's share a screen. Do we need audio? Why not?
Yeah.
It's funny, when I watch the live stream, there's an empty chair where I normally sit.
Okay, so these documents were leaked by Rebel Media, and it's about REWs, right? Or RWEs, right-wing extremists.
Yeah, the white ring extremists.
Yes. Can you guys see this stuff? Are you on the internet? Okay,
You want me off?
My wife is on the internet, and she's killing my connection.
I'm
It's
sorry.
a blank
I'll
screen
get
of
off.
death. Can you guys see that? Okay, give me a second.
Yeah, the white ring extremists.
It's the right white ring.
The white ring extremists.
Yeah.
Are we watching?
Read this.
What is
It's
this?
actually white wing. It's
Even
white
Region
wing.
Humanist,
WW.
read this, and he's been in the Canadian military for 17 years.
What do you think the WWE stands for? WWE White Ring Extremists.
So
It sounds like the white with
wing.
the W.
Yeah, the White Wing Extremists. WWE.
Yeah.
It's like the white wing.
Yeah, we are the White Wing. You put some Dio on or something.
Hang on a second.
You're the last in line. You're the White Wing.
Okay, so here it is. I'm going to incorporate this. It says stop screen share, share screen. And the people are going to want to see this. Canadians are going to want to see this because this even means grandma, right?
Yeah.
So we'll go back a bit.
And just end poverty. You have
Can
that
you guys
type.
hear that?
And then there is another minister. I think it really does.
So that's Raging Humanist right there.
Colonialism, those little Canadians starting wars all over the planet and all that stuff.
Because I'm somehow responsible for the 1600s personally.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Oh yeah, we've got it. It's
They
actually
kind of toned
funny
it
right
down
now
for
because,
Red Ice TV.
We have First Nations people looking at us right now, just saying, "How do you like it, bud?" And you have to put Omar Cotter up.
He said bud.
What is this phrase?
You have
This
to
guy
put Omar
actually
Cotter up
kills
there.
I was going to say, is that Cotter?
Yeah, he's doing a Canada tour at all the universities. Paid tour.
I don't know. When's somebody going to fucking take him out?
Yeah.
Actually, Raging Humanist,
Derek, how
because he's a
dare
veteran,
Yeah.
they're all going to show up.
It's like
in
they're doing it on
Halifax
purpose. It's like, we
to
don't
protest. They want to get on film the cops removing them to let Cotter speak.
Christians
But watch
That's
this.
such a
Right-wing,
one thing I'm
anybody
sick of. What's
sharing-
with
people
these
sharing,
passive
rebel
music?
media,
They're gonna remove us.
kicked out of the
Let
Yeah,
him
let's
speak.
pull that up.
When somebody
Exactly.
gonna go out there and
Yeah,
whip a
it's
brick
much
at
more
his
than
fucking
Well, they
head?
said he's a
more,
child
white
soldier,
guys were the
right?
biggest
But they
terrorists.
have
Yeah.
I don't
He's like a
care what he
reformed,
is. He's
Here
a
it is.
nah.
Concerned about white Canadian thought
Watch.
crimes,
Absolute
basically.
terrorist.
Look at the list: the landscape and ideologies, Canadian forces, counterintelligence
Absolute
units.
terrorist.
Is
So
that
look-
Canadian Armed Forces counterintelligence?
Look right in the middle
thing
here.
right here.
Anti-government law enforcement, free men on the land, and sovereign citizens. Like, who are those people hurting? They're literally on the land.
Yeah, anybody who basically declares
defending
themselves as
themselves,
a
not on the
free
system, not draining
Those
into
human
the
being.
Human being.
you know?
They're not paying.
Yeah, if you follow the word of God,
Big
basically
difference
you're a
between
terrorist.
the friend of ours.
You're not paying taxes.
I know he's
You're living on the
spearheading a lot
land.
of that
You're a
stuff.
terrorist.
Well, of course, but you know the
Right?
the Earth was like
Abortion?
humanity was given dominion over the Earth, which means you as a human being have right over this land to do with it as you please.
Yes.
This is your land to cultivate and to live on. No other human being has the right to tell you otherwise.
Okay, let's go to
Zero.
here. Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
white supremacy, right? You have KKK, neo-Nazi, racist skinheads, and Christians, right?
Yeah, they put those together, of course.
Anti-Islam, anti-immigration, cultural protection, anti-government, free man on the land, sovereign citizen. So basically, white nationalism, everything on here would declare like your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, even the people, the men that fought against the fascist Third Reich as terrorists. We're the terrorists. That's from the Canadian Armed Forces. So do what you will with it.
It's crazy.
Yes.
But at the same time, that's just some kind of red chart. Like, where's the actual
No,
document?
that comes from General Vance. It's already been confirmed. The general.
Who's General Vance?
He's about 5 feet tall. He's a little man. He's a weasel. And a lot of veterans have called him out because of that, because that's just these people are the traitors, right? I follow him on Twitter, General Vance. You got to see him. He's about this tall.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
So
a little.
he created these documents.
Well, probably not. It's probably passed down from the Trudeau government.
Yeah, but how do you know that?
How do I know it? Well, it's been confirmed. This is what they're handing out to the soldiers and the new recruits and everything. The Canadian Armed Forces that basically centers us for the color of our skin, right? I'm a Christian. You're pro-life.
Completely fucked.
You're an extremist, right? Yeah. So it is confirmed, but you guys are bumming hard, eh?
No, that's fucked.
It is. You know, we're Canadians. We love this country.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being a nationalist. I love Canada, and I want to see Canada do good.
No, this is the land that I come from, so I want to see it do the best.
Yeah,
I mean, it comes down to.
I hope everybody that's in Canada.
No, it's the whole pathological altruism. It's like, you know what? I know you know we're all human beings, but at the end of the day, there's your fucking problem and there's my fucking problem, and my problem is my problem, and I don't give a shit about your problem. If you don't like your country, change it. And here's the thing: is my forefathers stood up and fought for what they believed in, and they were willing to die, and they did die for what they believed in. And going back to the whole cowardice thing that we were saying earlier, is I'm willing to stand up and die for what I believe in, just like my forefathers did for me. And if you're not willing to do the same, well, again, that's your fucking problem. You're from another country, you don't like it, fix your country. We did it. It doesn't, you say, oh, we moved to a new land. It doesn't matter. You know what? Rise up and fix your fucking country. Don't come here. And, because I grew up most of my life being told, how much better every other country is than this country. And especially, No, it's not. All these kids, they come from these war-torn, foreign, like shitty fucking dump holes of a country. Yeah, shitholes of a country. And they come here, and then all they do is brag about how great their country is. Like, well, fucking go home and make it better then. Don't come here and try to make it the same.
Yeah, and for all those
I don't
people out
care.
there who may watch
I believe in this country, and I only care about this country. I don't give a shit about any other country, or any other people. That's their problem. Oh well, you don't like it? Too bad.
You call us a Nazi when our family,
when we bled to fight the fucking Nazis. No, everybody else. Everybody else. Here's the thing.
One at a time.
It doesn't matter. Everyone else is the Nazi. Okay, we bled and we died. Our ancestors, our DNA, our fucking lineage. We bled and we died, and we will continue to do so. If it was right and it was just to this day, I would be the first person to put my name on the list to fucking die and bleed out in order to fight these Nazis, okay? Yeah. These people, they are the Nazis. You know, the people who come here and the people who tell you otherwise, the people who call you Nazis, they are the Nazis, not you. Not us, not Canadians. You know, Canadians were never Nazis. We were never had any I don't even know what you would say.
Never.
Our beliefs were never in line with any oppression whatsoever. It was only with freedom. That's it.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, go the fuck home. Go home and make your country better. You think your country's better? Go prove to me it's better. Go. I want to go home and prove it. Don't be a coward. Don't come here and then tell me I need to change my country because you don't like the way things are. Fucking coward. You're not a man. Go home. Go home and say that to your government's face.
Yeah.
You know, don't come from some country and tell me my government isn't good enough. Go the fuck home and say that. I dare you to. You know what's going to happen? They're going to cut your head off in downtown square.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't like it? Oh, well, that's reality. Good. Welcome to the real world. You know, people get their heads cut off. People they die for saying shit. Yes. You know, everybody always acts like it's like, you can't say that. This isn't real. This isn't reality. We need to change. You know, we do accept all things, and it's like, okay, go halfway across the world and say the same shit and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to see it live stream. I dare you to.
And
okay, I'll be entertained to fucking watch as you get publicly executed for speaking the same words. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I respect your anger or enthusiasm.
It's not anger. It's just a fact. It's not anger. It's a fact.
And this isn't a political endorsement. And the sad thing is it comes from a gentleman, a Muslim man, a new Canadian, but who understands Canadian history. So we'll probably end off the stream with this video.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And his description of who we are and who Canadians are and where we came from.
Yeah, because you need common values, you need common beliefs.
Exactly, but it's more than that. So we're gonna play it, and then we'll end the stream.
Truly, a very special occasion to be on the stage with you, Maxime, and this immensely talented.
And again, this isn't a political
group of individuals you've assembled as part of your Ontario team for the upcoming 2019 federal election. And I'm greatly privileged to be part of this team with you, Maxime, as our leader. Merci beaucoup. Every federal election is important. Yet, in retrospect, some are more important and more critical than others in the life of a country such as ours. But going into this 2019 election, we can say with a great deal of certainty that this election, for a number of reasons, will be a crossroad election, and the future of our country hangs in balance, as was the election in February 1980. In 1980, Quebec's separatism threatened the unity of our country.
I remember that.
Today, it is the twin forces of globalism and Islamism joined at the hip that threaten both the unity of Canada and its liberal democratic culture founded on the principle of freedom based on individual rights. Globalism as an ideology points to a one borderless world administered by international organizations such as the UN and its agencies, while nation states are viewed as obsolete and requiring dissolution, as the German Chancellor Angela Merkel recently noted. Islamism, or militant or radical Islam of the Muslim Brotherhood, of the Iranian clerical regime and their offshoots, are at war with the West and the modern world of democracy.
I want to add something to this.
Okay.
For everybody who has a fatalistic view about immigration and that, like, of course, these are the upper echelons of immigration, but look at the color of that stage. And these people are fighting for Canada. The idea, you know, that we can work together, that there is an idea that is Canada.
Well, absolutely.
We
My
don't need
problem
a-
is with the people who come here and they do nothing but tell you how much better their country is than this country and how much more loyalty they have to their country than this country when they actually come from a complete shithole.
But these people here, they realize it, and they're
Well, they do. There's I never said there was any
bent upon
of course,
pushing
absolutely
their
people
global agenda.
No, I know.
Of Sharia
understand
compliance.
what Canada is and what it means to be Canadian.
Globalism and Islamism joined together is the elephant in the room. And we cannot seriously address any of the issues that demand our attention, whether it be policies pertaining to immigration and domestic security, or the economy.
Never
or
before
jobs
in my life
Alberta's
have I seen
energy
a speech
sector,
like this in Canada.
and in southern Ontario's auto and auto parts
a good
industry.
speech.
Yeah, but
or about the health
Canadians rejected
and
it.
welfare of our people,
Unreal.
foreign affairs, and defense of our country, without taking into account
I think
the
because
elephant in our room.
it's bigger and more serious than you think.
both
Like most
the
people
Liberal
are
Party
already
and the Conservative Party
indoctrinated. They want socialism. They want
committed
communism.
in publicly
gone.
denying
They're locked into
the
their party.
presence of this elephant.
But I like what he
But the-
talks about how
The only
Canada
difference
went into war to
between the
smash
two
the Third
parties
Reich.
is that
Yeah.
one is willing to ride the elephant and the other is seeking to hide from the elephant. We in the People's Party with Maxime Bernier are the only people in Canada at this time in our history endangered by globalism and Islamism, fully prepared to engage in a national conversation about this elephant in the room and how it subverts the national interests of Canada.
You can't make
We
the
recognize
mocking
without
against
any
And leading the
ambiguity
PPC.
how in failing to contain and
And how
defeat
Canadians
these
feel
violent
about
forces,
voting for a Muslim leader. in the
Canada will
PPC.
roll down on a fast track to become a laboratory of the globalist Islamist
I could
agenda.
see him being the leader of the party.
Yeah, but you don't think
Justin Trudeau proudly proclaimed
could
Canada
be
has no
something
core identity
ploy, part of the
and is
conspiracy?
a
I thought of
post-nationalist
that too,
agenda.
right? But Muslim, but
This is
You know,
like
he
Anybody
wholeheartedly
could be, really.
believes in the
it's
Quran.
history. He's wrote many books. He
adopted
goes
UN
way
Agenda
back. You know what I mean?
2030.
Yeah.
So
What I'm saying is, you never know. If you truly believe this stuff goes as deep as
radically
in
weaken
the earth,
Canadian sovereignty.
yeah,
Mhm.
you never know.
We, the
But
people,
you know what? From what you
have none of it.
I'd like, and that's what it really comes down to. Is at some point in time, you have to have some level of faith
and trust.
You know what I mean? You can't if you distrust everything, you're going to be living in a paranoid hell where nothing is real, nothing you can trust. At some point in time, you have to give faith into something, whether it's
from Normandy, France.
I think
The only thing you can put
saying.
faith into is God and humanity, not government. Tell you that right now.
Yeah, but you know what? And I'm not saying you're not right, but the thing is humans ultimately put faith into something, and some humans put faith into government, some humans put faith into God. You know what I mean? And the point is, I'm not speaking from like a who's right and who's wrong perspective. Purely objective. You know, we all have to take something that we think is true and it's real, but in reality, nobody knows what's going on.
No.
We're just suddenly here on this earth in this time. We try to create these realities where we think we know who we are, what's going on day to day life. Ultimately, we don't know why we're here. We don't know what everything is. We don't know if God is real or not. You can't say anything with absolute truth. You know what I mean? And the fact of the matter is, we don't know why we're here.
But
we know nothing.
For Canadians, and a lot of Canadians missed this boat, but a lot of Canadians didn't. This is the best part. If you listen to the
Sorry, I went on a tangent.
No, that's fine. It was a good one, though.
Okay.
Men and boys 18 and older.
Let's go back. Right here. We'll end it with
75 years ago, this past June, Canadian men and boys 18 and older landed on the beaches of Normandy, France, in the face of fire in defense of freedom. Their courage and heroism helped smash the Nazi monster and bring about the defeat of Hitler and the Third Reich. They went beyond Canada's borders and across the seas in defense of freedom. They were the warriors of freedom. Today,
he's like a man who truly admires who we are as Canadians.
Well, I was gonna say,
and for that, it's like you have to accept him. You have to accept him into our tribe.
Well,
and you know what?
You brought up a point that I would like to bring up next time, and it's kind of something I was hoping to talk about this time, but we'll bring it up in the next stream. Was what it means to be a warrior, like what it means to be a true, brave, living, spitting image of a man. Regardless of what kind of troubles you face, like what does it really mean to be a warrior and stand up for what you believe in?
I have
Is it something that we as modern people can even understand? Sorry, Dad.
I have somebody that I can bring in that might be able to answer that question. I'll ask him. No guarantee, but so we're going to end the stream now then?
Sure.
Landed on a high note.
Sounds good.
Hopefully everybody enjoyed that. This is Tom Guns. Just John.
G-Rod.
Signing out. We'll be back. You never know. It might be in a couple of days, but we're going to try and do it every Thursday around the same time. So
sounds good.
Hopefully we see you guys back then. Until then.
Take care. God bless.
We're out.